Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Anna Braun.
Here.
Timothy Cummings.
Here.
Jamie Falco.
Here.
Louis Figueroa.
Here.
Lori Herrick.
Here.
Lee Woo Hong.
Here.
Lori Lax. Wilbur Pan.
Here.
Heather Gloss.
Here. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hi, good evening. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed and acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the East Brunswick Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Board of Education offices. Written notice was also provided to the Sentinel, the Newark Star Ledger, the Home News and Tribune, and the Alternative Press of East Brunswick, and the Municipal Clerk of East Brunswick. All Board of Education meetings, with the exception of executive session discussions, are videotaped for later broadcast. It is the policy of the Board of Education that videotaped meetings are not edited for any purpose. Individuals who speak at the board's public meetings should be aware of these videotaping rules. All right, we have a need for a closed session. Whereas the Board of Education must discuss matters which are not appropriate for discussion in a public meeting, and whereas these subjects are within the exceptions to the Open Public Meetings Act and are permitted to be discussed in closed session pursuant to NJSA 10.4-12B, and whereas the Board of Education intends to discuss matters as follows, items listed on the agenda. Whereas the length of the closed session is estimated to be 1 hour, after which the public meeting of the board shall reconvene and action will be taken. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Pan, Lebu? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? All right, we are in closed. We will be back in 1 hour. Thank you. All right, hello, welcome back. We are sorry for the delay, but certain things just need the attention that they need. So we are back, and Dr. Valesky is not with us this evening. His father recently passed away, and he is with family this evening. But Dr. Boley is here for the superintendent's report.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. The artwork on display in the boardroom this evening was created by students from East Brunswick High School. The art teachers of these talented students are Megan Buckley, Lisa Gombis, Ashley Hananiah, Felix Martinez, Matilda Mado, Jonathan Shalaba, and Sol-Ling Yu. Dr. Edward Bouchour is the principal. Wednesday, February 19th, marked the 100th day of school, and our elementary students and staff celebrated this milestone. Warnsdorfer International Night is a yearly event sponsored by the PTA where students and families volunteer to host a table representing a country and culture from around the world. It is amazing to see the students, parents, and teachers come together to celebrate community and culture. The event features food, music, dancing, and presentations from countries around the world that reflect the wonderful diversity found in their school. Hammarskjöld's PTA International Night attracted over 300 attendees, suggesting a potential for an even greater event next year. For many students, this may have been their first exposure to cultures beyond their immediate community. The evening offered a chance to taste unfamiliar foods, hear different languages, see traditional clothing, and witness cultural dances. This unique experience can spark curiosity and a lifelong interest in global awareness. In sports, East Brunswick High School's football program had a double victory at the Bill Denny High School Football Awards Luncheon. Senior Felix Munoz was our Bill Denny High School recipient, and the team was awarded the Bill Denny Sportsmanship Award. Head coach Zach Gaga proudly attended the March 2nd event at the Pines Manor. Junior Matt McCulka broke the East Brunswick boys basketball scoring record, which was 1,311 on Friday, February 21st. He broke the record previously held by Rob Ukawuba, Class of 2013. Rob was able to attend and pass the torch to Matt.
Nice.
The Arts Department has some fantastic musical productions to see during the month of March. The Hammersholt Drama Club presents Finding Nemo Kids on Wednesday, March 5th and Thursday, March 6th, beginning at 7 p.m. Tickets are available at hues.booktix.com. East Brunswick High School presents Mamma Mia on Friday, March 14th, Saturday, March 15th, Friday, March 21st, and Saturday, March 22nd, beginning at 7 p.m. On Sunday, March 16th, the production will begin at 3 p.m. Tickets are available at ebhs.booktix.com. Churchill Junior High School presents 13 Junior on Wednesday, March 26th, Thursday, March 27th, and Friday, March 28th, beginning at 7 p.m. Tickets can be purchased at cjhs.booktix.com. Our next Parent University will be held Wednesday, March 12th at 7 p.m. in the JM Pack at Hammersholt Upper Elementary School. Dr. Reggie Wright, Jr. will present Attitude versus Ability, a powerful presentation designed to help parents support their children in achieving academic success and strong character development. And just a reminder, on Tuesday, March 11th and Wednesday, March 12th, our 11th grade students will be taking the New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment. These 2 days will be single session days for the high school only. Students in grades 10 and 12 will follow their regular single session day schedule. Pre-packaged grab-and-go meals will be offered for lunch immediately following dismissal. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and this brings us to one of my favorite parts about being a board member. Tonight will be filled with difficult discussion later, but right now it is wonderful to have the high school student council here for Learning Across the District, because you are a wonderful reminder that you are the reason that we are here. So I will turn it over to Rishi. Fantastic.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rishi Kundaran. I am the president of Student Council, and I'm also the representative for the Board of Education. Usually, I'm sitting over there, but today I'll be standing up here, joined with my four amazing executive officers, and we're going to be talking to you a little bit about what we do at the high school and at the Student Council. Just a quick overview of what we'll be talking about: our mission, school spirit, supporting community with creativity, our national and state student council, and then recent awards and recognition. And so at the high school, we operate underneath the National Student Council Association, and their overall mission is to empower students through leadership, service, voice, and engagement. And at the high school, we strive to uphold those standards in everything we do. And so here's some of the language taken from our high school amendment, which was adopted in June of 2020. And you can take a quick scan through. We do things like be a forum for student opinion. We cooperate between faculty and students, and we develop a culture that fosters leadership. I'll pass it on to Liza.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Putsukovich, and I am a sophomore representative at the High School Student Council. So one of the main things that we do at Student Council is promote school spirit. And one of the main ways we do this is through homecoming. Homecoming is a great tradition and a great way to kick off the year with a lot of school spirit and building community. This year, our homecoming had a Disney theme, which set the scene for the rest of the events that took place that week. The whole week was a spirit week planned by the Student Council that all of the students got to participate in. And then our class councils were able to pick a Disney movie to set the basis for their hallway decorating contest, where they each got to decorate a section of our terminal. Then the main attraction, the homecoming dance, was completely planned by the Student Council, where we chose the decorations that were also themed. We found a DJ, got the food, and we made homecoming crowns because the homecoming court is always announced at the dance. Following that, the day of the actual homecoming game was our spirit rally, where Student Council gets to work with class councils and athletic teams to celebrate our fall athletes and have some contests in which students get to have a great time, have fun, and it really just builds school spirit and community. very early in the year. And then later in the year, next slide. Later in the year, we have our winter door decorating contest, which is when the student council gets to decorate the main office and administrative doors. And then we provide homerooms with supplies, and we encourage them to decorate their own doors. And it becomes a contest, and the winners get bragging rights and breakfast. And then students really just work hard with their homeroom teachers. They coordinate together. They even stay after school to decorate the school environment, to have a great time. And paired with Alumni Day before winter break and our Winter Spirit Week, this is a great way to build community and have a great time in the dreary winter months.
Hello, my name is Nikita Shaw. I'm a junior and I'm a treasurer at East Brunswick High School. So along with these traditions that we've had for so many years, we've also adapted new events from the NJASC, the State's Association of Student Council. Through various events hosted at the Student Council, we promote growth and connection for our student body. One example is our holiday market. Through this event, students and faculty members had the ability to sell products and services that they own. Along with this, it wasn't only clubs who had the ability to sell their products and services. It was also individual businesses. Like, for one example, is one of our students had her own business, her own bakery business, and she sold out at her holiday market. Along with that, a faculty member was able to sell a game that she created. Some clubs also held creative events, like a school's gift and thrift, where I was able to purchase a really nice sweater. Along with the holiday market, the Student Council holds student bonding events like our escape room and movie night. Here, students have the chance to interact outside of the school environment and de-stress and relax after a long day of school, after a long week of school. These events are essential to building and strengthening the community here at EBHS. All these events come from listening to students and from ideas that we get from other student councils, like I mentioned before, from our NJASC. Here, we can bring our ideas back and just integrate them into our community.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kaylin DeRose. I am a sophomore, and I am the NJASC liaison at our East Brunswick Student Council. So clearly, we're able to highlight our amazing leadership, events, and community service through statewide and national initiatives. These are known as the New Jersey Association of Student Councils and the National Student Council. Both we've been active members of since 2019. Along with highlighting our leadership, we're also able to take resources from these organizations to improve and also highlight our student council, such as taking resources from the National Student Council to creating our Constitution in 2020. Along with this, we attend New Jersey Association of Student Council events, which include their fall conference, winter convention, and spring award ceremony, where we highlight our own events through workshops and encourage our student leaders to connect with other student leaders across the state, and then continue to allow East Brunswick High School to be a dynamic place by bringing other ideas to our student council and highlighting what they'd like to bring here. Finally, we've had two state officers serve for the New Jersey Association of Student Councils. Our first one in 2023, and I am your second one this year in 2025. Alana is your first New Jersey Board of Education student representative. We truly do focus not only with taking these agendas, but also our own on highlighting advocacy and student leaders.
Hi, my name is Jane Godwin. I'm Vice President of Events, and I'm a junior at the high school. So, with all of our amazing projects and community building activities, we have earned, since adopting our Constitution 5 years ago and joining the NJAC 4 years ago, we have earned a number of awards. We have our Community Smiles Award for projects that make a positive impact on our community, as well as our top 10 projects for our escape room and our movie night, and our Honor School Award for meeting the basic NJASC requirements. And not to top it off, but last year we earned the Council of Excellence Award, and councils can only qualify for this award every 5 years. So we are extremely grateful and proud that we have earned this award. And it involves an extensive series of self-evaluation, peer evaluation, and ongoing activities that reflect how we meet very high standards required by NJASC. We were paired with Bay and A High School, and not only worked hard with them throughout the process, but made great friends. We are very proud to have earned the Council of Excellence.
Thank you all for the opportunity to talk about what we do at the high school and what we do at Student Council. We couldn't do any of these things that we do without the support of our amazing advisors, Mrs. LaForge and Ms. Bankard, who have a thankless job at times, but they really allow us to be the best student leaders possible. Our amazing administration, Dr. Bashor, and the rest of the supervisors at the high school, and of course, you guys. And on that note, we have something for each of you here. They were made by our Arts Honor Societies, and they were a big hit at our holiday market, which we talked about.
I was so proud.
We hope that they remind you of all the hard work that you guys do, as well as what you're doing all this for, which is us and our students at the high school. So we thank you all for allowing this opportunity to speak once again, and thank you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you. Oh, and as always, go Bears.
Thank you. I do want to say, as somebody who just brazenly watches your Instagram, I can justify this. My one son just graduated. My daughter's a senior. I have good reason besides the board to be there, but I really enjoy, if you have the opportunity to just cruise through the Instagram for the Student Council, it's amazing, the events. I was deeply invested in the theme for HOCO before it happened. I was very, very excited to see the Disney go up, as was the rest of my household. But they just do amazing things all year long while maintaining just such high academic excellence, and they're so well presented. They represent us so well in so many ways. So we're very grateful to have you here. We're going to go to Rishi's student representative report, and then we're going to have a brief recess to allow our students to go home if they would like. All right, Rishi, different chair, same seat.
I'm sure you guys are probably tired of me talking at this point, so I'm going to make it brief. It's been a whole month since we last met, and at that time there's been plenty of exciting news. Tonight, both the boys and girls basketball teams play in their second round of states, facing tough opponents. Both teams, after an excellent start to their state tournament, are prepared to give it their all tonight. Boys basketball face Montgomery at 6, and girls basketball face Hillsborough at 5:30. As basketball inches towards the end of their season, wrestling, swimming, and winter track have all concluded. Our winter athletes have faced especially cold weather, tough opponents, and grueling workouts, but they have persevered through these challenges and can now celebrate at their banquet at the end of the season, where they'll celebrate both their seniors and their amazing seasons. 2 weeks ago, the Social Studies Honor Society hosted its annual trivia night, designed to test the knowledge of its members and the entire school community. Students enjoyed food, music, and of course, intense questions provided by the EBHS academic team. With over 200 participants, this year's event was one of the most successful in history, and the competition remained fierce throughout the night. Senior and president of Rho Kappa, Aditya Udeshi, stated, "Trivia night was amazing. I'm so grateful for everyone who attended. We had another great year in terms of club participation and fun, and it was wonderful to see all our dedicated and engaged members passionately competing." Last Friday, the EBHS International Club hosted its annual Culturama, which drew over 300 attendees eager to learn about and share diverse cultures from around the world. Participating students created posters with relevant information about their chosen countries, along with interactive activities. Students presenting on Brazil brought a soccer ball and goal, allowing participants to take penalty kicks, while those representing Germany introduced a creative rendition of a popular cow-themed game. The cafeteria was lined with over 100 posters, each detailing unique facts from different corners of the world. In addition to interactive activities, many attendees brought ethnic foods from their respective countries. That night, I had the opportunity to try lumpia from the Philippines, Afghan rice from Afghanistan, and much, much more. It felt like a 15-course meal all within the high school cafeteria, which is something I don't think everyone can say. The night culminated in a series of dancing and singing performances that highlighted the diverse backgrounds of our students. Senior and president of the International Club, Shraptesh Lokanda, stated, "The energy was full of energy, showcasing diverse dances, music, and posters that brought everyone closer through cultural exchange." The EBHS Black Student Union hosted its annual Harlem Renaissance Night, featuring a fashion show and a series of performances from talented individuals within our school. This event, marking the conclusion of Black History Month, was open to all EBHS families and friends. Attendees enjoyed powerful performances, amazing food, and stunning fashion, all while gaining deeper insight into Black history and culture. Jane Godwin, a junior and vice president of BSU, remarked, "The annual Harlem Renaissance event was filled with talent and immersed enthusiasm for sharing our cultures. This year, we also showcased various Black designers in an amazing fashion show." With the Harlem Renaissance event wrapping up a fantastic series of celebrations from the past month, we now look forward to the exciting events planned for March. The EBHS Drama Club will be putting on its annual spring production performing Mamma Mia, starting on March 14th. Senior Drama Club President Mia Rosen says, "The Drama Club cast and crew have worked so hard to put together this production of Mamma Mia. After many long rehearsals and stage builds, they are ready to put on a fantastic show. If you are free next weekend, I encourage you to come out and support many of these hardworking students." Finally, the EBEFSA's annual volleyball tournament will take place this Thursday in the main gym. Teams representing various clubs from the high school will compete for a $100 grant towards their club. This exciting competition will be filled with fun and friendly rivalry, and it's sure to be a great time, so please come out and support. And as we transition from winter sports and school events into spring, we look forward to much warmer weather and the continuation of all the amazing work being done at the high school so far. Thank you.
All right, without any of you looking back at Dr. Bouchard, I do have one question. No looking at him. The Hawaiian shirt thing, has that caught on? That is an amazingly well-put answer. Thank you so much. All right, we are going to have a brief recess. I ask that the board just stay because we're going to be that quick to allow our students to go home if they wish to. We appreciate their presence, but we know it's a long night. Thank you for being here. Having our students here, but still all important. All right, we are moving on to the good of the cause for the public. Excuse me. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. In order to permit the fair and orderly expression of such comment, the board shall provide a period for public comment at every meeting of the board. Residents are welcome to speak up to 3 minutes. The timing will be kept by the board secretary. I would just request that when you step up to the podium, you state your name and address. Unless you are a student, then if you could just state your name and your school. Is there anyone wishing to address the board this evening? Dr. Zimbicki.
Good evening. Dana Zimbicki, President of the East Brunswick Education Association. So I'm speaking to you tonight because I'm deeply disappointed and concerned. Approximately 2 weeks ago, a current Board of Education member made a choice to post a social media posting regarding the budget. In that post, it was alleged that the budget crisis rests on the backs of the teachers and support staff. As it was stated, our current budget crisis is due to contractual raises and health care premiums, as they make up the vast majority of the budget. The post went on to scold past board members who voted in favor of these contracts. I was deeply troubled by these comments, and frankly, I find them unacceptable and potentially a violation of board ethics. While the post was quickly deleted, many screenshots circulated. My office blew up that day. The 1,400 members of the East Brunswick Education Association are outraged and disappointed. And I want to make a few points very clear. We do not manufacture products. We enrich lives. Education is a people-centered profession. And in New Jersey, approximately 80% of the budget, school budget, should be allocated to salaries and benefits. This is a standard practice. Our current contract is a 5-year agreement. The long-term contract provides the board with a clear salary data for 5 years, ensuring accurate financial planning. And the next thing, blaming educators for a budget crisis is completely misguided. The reality is that the average teacher in East Brunswick cannot even afford to live here if they don't have a spouse or a roommate. Our salaries and benefits are in line with averages of the county. we are definitely not the problem. Negotiations are handled with integrity. The process between the board and EBA is rigorous, and it's thorough, and it's something that I've always respected. In fact, I'm already preparing the next negotiation cycle right now. We're getting ready. Our contract runs through June 2026. And when a contract is presented for ratification, it comes after extensive discussions, data analysis, and countless hours of meetings on both sides. Looking at this current board, only one member has ever participated in a small group negotiations, and then 2 total
10 seconds.
have voted on EBA bargaining agreement. This raises serious concerns because we're getting ready to go into a negotiation session. And I only hope that the voice of this one person is not the voice of this entire group. And it would be wrong of me not to bring this to you on behalf of the members of our association. We should never be blamed for earning fair wages.
Time.
And aligning our health benefits and wages with the county standard, period. I do have more to say.
I know.
Thank you,
I'll
Dana.
send it to you in an email.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the board tonight? Oh, please.
Hello, my name is Mohammed Shalma. I'm an 8th grade student for Churchill Junior High School, and I would just like to talk about like the sports and how they're going to be taken away for us. And I just really disagree on it and how like I do 8th and 7th grade sports for junior high school, and I just do not agree at all with the takeaway of it. I've bonded so much with people that I've done the sport with for my school, and I think it's just so much more different than rec. After a win on that school bus, it's just like, it's something that you will never, ever, like, imagine, like, anything else. Or, like, that's, like, something that you talk about with your kids. And I really disagree with it. Like, the coaches, I see my coach every day in the school, and I talk to him still about this day, about my season. And I feel like if it wasn't for school and the teacher talking about me with it, I would never get into wrestling. And yesterday, I was in my first tourney ever, and I got 3rd place. So, and if it wasn't for my teacher in the school talking about it, I would never like really be doing something after school. So I just like really disagree on like the takeaway of it, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Good evening. Dom Sclafani, 2 Morgan Place. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I saw mention of Rob Ukawuba, and he is a family friend of mine. I've known him since I was that big. And let me tell you, he's a professional basketball player. He plays overseas and everything. So for him to come back and have Matt McCulka and congratulate him, he's a class act. He's a great guy. But he played 8th grade basketball, and I'm assuming Matt McCulka also played 8th grade basketball. So just remember that when you are planning on making these cuts and everything, that the 2 all-time scorers of East Brunswick boys basketball played 8th grade, and that's where they got their start. That's where they found the love of the game. And it can be said, congrats on getting 3rd place. That's amazing. I still talk to my coaches. I still talk about the stuff we would joke around about in practice. I would still talk about how I made that sack. It's in here. That keeps these memories. So just remember that. Remember that the future of your sports programs are from 8th and 9th grade sports. And that would not have happened if they didn't play 8th grade sports. they would not have been the all-time scorers. Just wouldn't have happened. So I implore you to really think about these cuts and everything. And I know you're going to say the money has to come from somewhere, the money has to come from somewhere. I implore you, really think about it. Really think about the impact this will have on the athletic programs. Will we ever have someone ever break Matt McCulka's record? Who knows? But I bet you if someone did, they played 8th grade sports.
Thank you, Tom.
Good evening, Board. Jeff Winston, Fresh Ponds Road, East Brunswick. My condolences to Dr. Valesky. Never easy losing a father. Probably one of the hardest things anybody can go through. So on the back of Dr. Zimbicki, I think there's some more context that could be added. Back in January, I did hear this board given a annual lesson from Board Attorney Mr. Giacobbe on what the do's and don'ts of social media use. And one of the things that were mentioned in there is that if you are going to post and use your First Amendment right, which I'm a firm believer in, is that you disclaim it as your own opinion and not necessarily shared of those of the board. When that phrasing is not put, one has to default that it is this Board of Education that believes that the problem with this budget is the teachers. Once again, it's not my fault back in this board. The exact quote, contractual raises and healthcare cost premiums are the vast majority of our deficit. People who may have quit the board, I was one of those people, are the same people who voted yes to these. What Ms. Falco forgot is that all 9 members of this board voted on it. And all 9 members of this board voted yes because Dr. Zimbicki and her team, astute negotiators, give a 5-year contract, which is very unusual, but it's called negotiating in good faith, never to come back and bite somebody. Poor board membership. I'll leave that there, and I do hope that this board comes clean. Is that your feeling as a board? Because your board member represents you. Without that disclaimer, it is my belief, and I'm waiting to be told otherwise, that this whole board may in fact believe that it's the teacher's fault. The teachers who do a great job educating in this system, the best in the world. And you blamed them. And you blamed them. That is so weak. Lastly, there was recently an ad hoc committee, is what it's been called, or a community action committee, of some sort of a committee formed with Dr. Valesky. From somebody in that group, I was told that the meeting was essentially about trying to justify Dr. Valesky's visionary approach to this district. That was not an ad hoc committee. That was a committee, an action committee, and that would fall under policy 9140 that says for board approval. I've looked through the minutes and I can't find it, President Guas. I don't know when that was motioned in and approved. I don't know if, when the board goes back to an old argument, are you the board? Bernie might be the board, but you can't just do things without motioning it in. But in 9140, thank you. 9140, it clearly states that any committee formed like that should have a charter and should be available. Bernie has been opered on that by another individual, and it was rejected.
Time.
We deserve to see what that was and why that meeting, why that group was formed. Thank you very much. I'm sorry to go over on time.
Thank you, Joe. Is there anyone else wishing to address the board?
Hi, Lisa Knoppenberger, a kindergarten teacher at Warnsdorfer and the EBA secretary. I just want to add a positive possible vibe to some of the things happening. The teachers and support staff in our district do a lot of really wonderful things that, along the lines of, it was planned before this went this way, but on our own time, that we don't get paid for, that do get recognized, and we do get thank yous and pats on the back for. But when you do talk about our livelihood and our money and what we do or don't, I think it's important to remember that also. For example, just yesterday, the EB Orchestra Symphony worked together And they did an amazing fundraiser over at the Community Arts Center to raise money for an EBA scholarship that we award and to raise money for the symphony as well. And that, again, all the practices and the time put into that was on their own time, but supporting the schools, the students, and the programs that we have here. This week is Read Across America. It's big in the elementary schools. Although we haven't really gone the Dr. Seuss route, there's still a lot of work put into that. A lot of grant writing, teachers write books, they write programs, they get together, they plan amazing programs. I know right now at Warrenstoffer we're doing, it's a March Madness theme where they're kind of competing and reading and voting on the different books for each level. A lot of that is supporting the curriculum and the programs we have, but the creativity comes from the collaboration that all the different programs have in our buildings and district. It goes from talking to Churchill. We have Churchill students coming on Friday to read to our students their favorite childhood picture books. And then we have questions and answers set up. So these things are done on everybody's free time because we love what we do. And sometimes when we're discussed on social media, we do feel as though we're just pawns in a game of people going back and forth when it really shouldn't be that way because we're doing these things because we love them. The last thing that we have is our prom shop is again this year, and we are open on Tuesdays, March 4th and 11th from 3:30 to 5 p.m. and March 8th from the 22nd, March 8th and 22nd from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 575 Cranberry Road. A huge thank you to Joanne Mariani for being the glue to organize this event. It allows our students to come and get prom dresses, tuxedos, jewelry, ties, cummerbunds, everything that they could use to feel that though they look like their peers at prom who can't always necessarily afford the same things that their classmates
10 seconds.
can. So those are just some awesome things that we're doing. And I also, sometimes community, when you're speaking about us, like we see that. No.
Time.
Thank you, Liesl. Is there anyone else wishing to address the board?
Tatiana Jordan, 27 North Drive. I would like to extend my gratitude to the board members who posed insightful questions about the ILA curriculum, though we have only begun to explore the issue's complexities. I also want to thank the teachers who presented at the last meeting for sharing their strategies and expertise. However, it is important to acknowledge that the presentation given by administrators appeared to be more of an effort to manage perceptions rather than provide a fully transparent assessment. It seemed designed to present a polished narrative to the board and public rather than accurately reflecting the challenges that are truly taking place. First and foremost, let us reflect on the teacher survey that was mentioned by administrators. This survey was a result of parents advocating for teacher input. It's important to clarify that when administrators were initially asked about teachers' opinions on the ILA curriculum, their response was, quote unquote, teachers love this curriculum. As an educator myself, I questioned that claim, only to be told there was no funding to bring teachers together across the district to gather their input. There has been no initiative taken by the administration before this to gather teacher feedback, which in itself is quite alarming. In response, my husband proposed a cost-effective way to do so through a teacher survey. I sincerely hope that the teacher surveys will be shared with you in their entirety, without alterations or selective reporting. Transparency is crucial, and it's essential that you receive the full picture rather than a curated version of the feedback. Secondly, we must take a critical look at their Tier 1 interventions. While they claim that 80% of their students are adequately supported at this level, my own child was classified as Tier 1 despite clearly needing more targeted intervention support that we as parents had to fight for. But how many other students, also labeled as Tier 1, are struggling under this curriculum? How many require more intensive instruction that simply cannot be effectively provided through a small group instruction or ineffective strategies in reading and writing workshops? While I recognize the benefits of independent reading for building stamina, I do not believe this approach is appropriate for K-2 students when foundational literacy instruction is critical. Leaving struggling readers to navigate the process on their own is a recipe for failure. Their confidence declines, frustration builds, and many eventually give up or resort to pretending to engage in independent reading. Without proper support, we risk setting these students up for long-term academic struggles. The portrayal at the last meeting needs to be critically examined. We refuse to be sold a lemon by a used car salesman trying to hide its defects. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana. Is there anyone else wishing to address the board?
Hi, Michelle Bethy, 5 Watchung Road. I'm also here to share some questions about the language arts curriculum. I also wanted to thank the teachers that shared what they do in their classrooms last week. I also wanted to make it clear that none of this is about the teachers. It's about the purchase of the newly packaged curriculum, Mossflower, even with all the information out there about it being ineffective and harmful. The curriculum clearly states units of study. As you know, the reading workshop model follows a 15-minute mini lesson. Students are then left to read their level text on their own for 20 to 30 minutes, while the teacher is in small group reading more level text. There's a stop and share moment and then closure. Phonics is not mentioned. Morphology is not mentioned. What we also didn't hear about is the use of a universal dyslexia screener that is used to identify kids at risk, which is legally required to be given to all students K to 3. You are legally required to screen any student who is displaying one or more characteristics of dyslexia. A screener, such as Dibbles, gives a teacher so much useful information. The phonics inventory that was mentioned is by Heinemann, a Lucy Calkins publisher, which is not evidence-based. We also didn't hear about an assessment that is given, such as the Core Phonics Survey or Quick Phonics Screener, after using a dyslexia screener to then drive instruction. Learning disabilities don't just suddenly appear in 3rd grade. Actually, researchers have shown that this achievement gap is evident as early as 1st grade, leaving so many students to struggle for so many years without being identified. Intervention that is being done is by teachers who are IMSE trained, not certified. While IMSE may be strong in phonics and decoding, it's not as in-depth in morphology, syntax, and language comprehension. What about grammar? If we don't explicitly teach students sentence structure, how can you expect them to write paragraphs? What about access to grade level text? If you have kids reading level text, this is going to limit their vocabulary. What are we doing then to develop vocabulary and build students' background knowledge? This would support comprehension, not just focusing on one skill or strategy every week. The current ILA curriculum is hurting children. Please listen to the stories that have been shared, people who have been negatively impacted by this for years and years and years. It's a lot of advocating, and I just wish it were better. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Is there anyone else? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion, which leads us to the agenda. I would like to combine the entire agenda. This in no way limits the discussion of any individual items. So, can I have a motion for the full?
I'm
just- sorry.
Just clarification. The minutes are pulled from the agenda, and under business and support operations, item 2 will be discussed after the second during the second closed session, and action will take place after.
Okay, with those amendments, can I have a motion for the full agenda?
So moved.
Ms. Hare? Second. And Dr. Pan. Discussion. All right. Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Yes. Anna Braun?
Yes.
Timothy Cummings?
Yes.
Jamie Falco?
Yes, with abstention on item 2 under special education and student services.
Noted. Louis Figueroa?
Yes.
Lori Herrick?
Yes.
Li Wu Hong?
Yes, with abstention of HR, agenda number 1.
Noted. Wilbur Pan?
Yes.
Heather Gloss?
Yes. All right. Motion's carry. All right, committee reports, information items, and for the good of the cause for the board. We are going to begin with the Finance Committee of the Whole. financial year 2026 budget discussion. That is you, sir.
Yes. Bear with me. Nope. Bear with me a moment while we get set up. Okay, so we'll begin this evening with first a reminder on what has happened up until now and where we are headed over the next several weeks and a couple of months. So first, as everyone probably knows, the governor delivered his budget message last week on February 25th, and that was followed by the release of state aid on February 27th. We are having a special meeting this evening to be able to engage in those discussions as a result of that information on state aid. March 20th is the date that is scheduled for tentative budget adoption. However, the state has moved the final day for budget adoption to March 19th. So we will need to move our board meeting one day earlier. Public hearing is currently scheduled for April 24th. And just as a reminder, as the board adopts a tentative budget, the operative word is tentative. There's opportunity to make changes up until the tentative budget is adopted. So that would be the final opportunity for any revisions. And a final adoption is scheduled for May 8th. So, back in January 30th board meeting, we had a presentation regarding where we were in terms of the budget bottom line. Estimated revenue, appropriations, and the estimated shortfall, and there were two scenarios. One was based on flat aid being, or state aid being flat, and the other was with a reduction in state aid approximately equal to the reduction that we saw in the prior year. This chart shows what the variances are in our state aid as well as the variance in the charter school. So I believe it was at the last board meeting, we had talked a little bit about an announcement that had come out of the Department of Education talking about potentially a 3% reduction in state aid. And in fact, that's exactly what occurred for East Brunswick. And not only East Brunswick, but that also occurred for any of the other highly performing school districts. The school districts that benefited from state aid increases were those that were not within the high-performing group. Stabilization aid. We received stabilization aid for the current fiscal year. That was after a final budget had been adopted. That was only for 1 year. The state did not repeat the provision of stabilization aid, and so that's not on the table either. So that's a full reduction. So our total reduction in state aid is about 4.47%, $1.7 plus million. Charter schools went up. So while our state aid was going down, charter schools went up, and not because of enrollment, and we have not delved into the details of the calculation as yet, but charter schools requiring us to budget an additional $668,000 or the state is requiring us to budget that additional increase. So that has an impact upon the bottom line. Just some updates regarding selected budget impacts. So salary and benefits, yes, they are the majority of our budget. Salaries are going up 4.06% cumulatively. That includes the impact of breakage, so that is for employees that are retiring and being replaced with new employees who come in at a lower salary. Health benefits, I had indicated previously that we have budgeted at 7%, and that our broker was advising that we should budget at 10%. Most recently, and this is as of a couple of days ago, I have confirmed with our broker that we will be able to maintain at the 7% increase, not the 10%. Now, you might ask, well, why is that 7.96%? And that's because there are some changes as a result of some additional positions that are necessary, and it's also impacted by the amount of employee contributions to health benefits. Out-of-district tuition. At our last, back in January, the increase was not as significant as this. This is showing an increase of over $1 million, or 23.82%. So during this period of time, we have had new move-ins, new individuals, new families that have moved into district with children that are bringing their IEPs with them and are already in out-of-district placements, and that has driven part of this, as well as receiving additional information regarding what the rates are, estimated tuition rates are from out-of-district placements for next year. So that's pretty significant impact there. Electricity. Electricity, we have had that budgeted at a $310,000 increase just based on our utilization. We received, and it's not included in this number, but it will be part of our discussion shortly. We received notification from one of the utilities that services our schools to plan for a 19.1% increase beginning in June. That impact will be an additional roughly $400,000 on the budget. Custodial services increasing $180,000. Charter schools, I already had that on the other sheet, but we're looking at an 11.45% increase on charter schools. And then some other factors, employee health benefit deductions, what their contributions are, excuse me, to the offset the health benefit costs. Property and casualty insurance is estimated. We do not have final information on that, and as of my last inquiry over the weekend, I received a response today that that information is unlikely to be available until May. One of the things that was on here at the last presentation was workers' compensation. Workers' compensation is now pretty much locked in, so that's reflected in the bottom line of the budget, and that has also had an increase. And currently, our tax levy is being maximized, including the use of $1 million in banked cap. So that's comes out to approximately $3.9 million on the revenue side, or a 2.72% increase. So where are we as of today? Our appropriations are at $205.4 million. That's a $7.2 million increase over the current fiscal year. It's a 3.66% increase. Where are our revenues? $197.7 million. So our shortfall is approximately $7.7 million. We have offsets for discussion this evening totaling just under $8.4 million. So with that, we will now move into discussion on the details of what those offsets are. There are certain of those offsets we will not be discussing here in the open session because they involve specific identifiable individuals' positions, and so we'll do that in a closed session setting. So if you just bear with me a moment. I'm going to distribute. You can have one. These documents are advisory, consultative, and deliberative, and they remain as such until we actually have a final budget.
Can I ask a quick question while these are being passed out? The special ed aid, is that that's based on the number of students that we have?
Quite honestly, in the days that we've had those state budget reports, we are going through and analyzing what the state did in changing calculations. Because if you noted, equalization aid, the very first item on that revenue screen, decreased substantially from, I believe it was $26 million down to $18 million. And then there were increases in special education aid, transportation aid, and security aid. I can't tell you specifically what drove that, not today. I will be able to.
Okay.
We have a conference call, there's a conference call with all business administrators tomorrow, going through the changes in the formula, because there were changes in the formula. So we'll be able to speak to that in more depth at the next meeting. But notably, when you see that change in the equalization aid, I think that is really the writing on the wall, because I think what we're going to be looking at is, as a higher performing school district, as I said, the state took money away from higher performing school districts and moved that money over to other districts. I think we'd be looking at 3% and this down the road, another 3% next year, maybe another 3% the year after. The state formula looks very much at adequacy, and as I've said, I think adequacy really equates to mediocrity down the road. So those are some things that we have to keep an eye on, and what that impact is going to be as we move forward.
And the other thing, you probably don't have the answer to this question either, but if you could look into it, is my understanding is that we should expect aid from the state for our special education student population for a given dollar amount per student. I'd like to know if that's changed and what that number would be for this particular.
We'll go through that.
Thanks.
Board President Guas, I think one of the things that we will need, because as we move forward through this list, remember, we have a tentative budget that is going to need to be adopted March 19th. That's only a couple of weeks out. So as we go through, it's going to be helpful to know whether we have consensus on the item or not. And remember, this is for a tentative budget. There'll be opportunity to make revisions, but we need to be able to start getting this data into the state's budget system, which has built into it calculations that we can't possibly project. So we need to start moving on that and seeing where that takes us. So just want to bring that to everyone's attention as we move forward, and we'll start on page 1. Page 1, the first item, and this first grouping, and I'll let you know when this changes, but this first grouping we had gone through at the last board meeting, so there's nothing new in the first grouping, and I'll let you know where that break is. The This first page deals with closing schools. Elementary schools will not be open beyond 6:15 p.m., meaning that they'll close. We will not need to have security coverage in those buildings because the buildings will close. And if there is a need, first of all, any school-based activities, let's say a PTA meeting or a Scouts meeting, and so forth, they will be able to have their meetings at one of the other 3 schools. Could be Hammersholt, Churchill, the high school. Certainly, those will be available with no problem. If there's an absolute requirement to have it at one of the elementary schools during this time when the building would normally no longer have or be closed to public use, then the costs associated with security would be borne by the requester. So there are, for the elementary schools, each of the elementary schools is a savings of $30,841. So that is, and you'll see on the left-hand side of your report, the row numbers, so that's row 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Then on row 12, one more item under security. This is a position retirement that will allow us one additional savings at one of the schools. So I would ask at this point if there are any questions.
All right, do we have questions? Because we're going to do consensus, sort of one section at a time. All right, I just had a little bit for the public. We had discussed this last year as well.
Yes.
And our hope was to keep the buildings open, especially for groups like the PTA that do so much to serve the community, to allow them to meet in the buildings where their children are, where they're doing so much good work. And we were able to do that last year. But this year, in an effort to find places to save money, this seems like a very simple answer to move to a more centralized location. So we all appreciate that the PTAs, I'm a PTA mom, we all appreciate that the PTAs would like to be in their home schools, but this is one way to help our budget. All right, do we have consensus for this? Is all in favor of the first 12 rows? No one's in favor of the first one? Yes, all in favor of the first 12 rows. Are we okay with this for the tentative? Yes. We have 1, 2, 3.
Just to clarify, these are all the items marked security?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
4, 5, yes, we have 5 there.
2, 3, 4.
Lou is saying no.
5. Oh, Lee was not here?
No.
I didn't know when he left. Okay, so we have 6.
No, Lou was saying, you were saying no, right?
Talking to me?
Yes.
Okay. That leaves 6.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, moving on. Page 3. We have row 13, 14, 15, 16 are all related to position reductions tied to enrollments. Some of this is at the elementaries. Actually, they're all at Hammersholt. The savings for each of those, this is for 4 positions, $95,603 for each of the 4 positions.
All right, this is one of the ones that would be difficult to ask questions on here, right?
Well, this is all driven by a decrease in enrollment.
Mm-hmm.
So decreases in enrollment typically would be reduced. We would reduce the positions to go along with those decreases.
Mm-hmm.
Question?
In terms of, this part of this is the special education cuts?
No.
No, thank you.
This is, I arose 13, 14, 15, and 16.
Thank you.
I have a
And just
question.
as a, if I may, just as a reminder, so and I believe we talked about this at the last meeting, but the recommendations have all made their way up through the administrators, school-based principals, assistant principals, supervisors. In some cases, there are things that have come from various administrators at central office level. So this was a collaborative process across the board.
You had a question?
Yeah, my question, please. What kind of impact would this have on class sizes with the reduction of these 4 classes? Have we looked into that at all?
These positions should not have an impact on class size.
Thank you.
Just a clarification on the previous point. Can you tell us the lowest level position that would have generated the proposals that we're seeing here? So I mean, you listed, a bunch of roles in the administration. Like how far down does that go in terms of?
It would have been assistant principals, supervisors, all of those positions. The Principals and Supervisors Association worked as a group. They broke down into committees at various levels and brought back recommendations. And then there were collaborative efforts between some of those individuals. And we have with special ed, the Director of Special Education, Director of Secondary Education, Director of Elementary Education, Human Resources. So there were many people that were involved in even some of the other discussions. You'll see as we go forward that there are discussions that impact on class size. And so some of the central office team were involved in those discussions with the individual schools that are affected.
Okay, and just, this is mainly so we're all on this same page. So the assistant principal would have been the lowest ranking position on that? Okay, great, thanks.
So any additional questions on rows 13 through 16?
Just one other quick question. Do we tend to see increases in enrollment over the summer prior to the new academic year starting?
We see changes in enrollment, and and I'll explain how enrollments are projected. We do basically a straight line projection. So the number of students that we have in a grade level today, let's say at grade 2, rolls forward to grade 3. Those currently in grade 3 roll forward to grade 4, and so forth. We see changes in enrollment almost every day. There are those coming in, and then also students that are leaving. And that's held pretty steady. So getting to what might change in the summer, we may, these enrollments are really not off from what the projections were from our last demographic report, although those numbers are a little soft at this point. So I don't think that should be a problem for us going forward.
All right, seeking consensus. All right, I'm looking for agreement and consensus on lines 13 through 16.
Yes.
We're in agreement for that?
Yes. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, yes, and yes. Everyone.
Okay, everyone. Okay. Okay, next, let's look at rows 17, 18, 19, and 20. These are also 17 and 18 are due to changes in IEPs and student needs. So there are 2 positions, one for in-class resource, and one for LLD. These 2 position reductions are based on the number of students we have in those programs. So there is room, just like we just discussed on the enrollment changes, there's room here for those reductions. There's also a position reduction as a result of combining programs, ERI with life skills, or combining a position from 2 to 1, and then another resource position due to IEPs and student needs.
For the two positions who are going to be combined, are we sure that's not going to be too much of a workload for the person that takes on the combined position?
Who wants to take that one?
So it would stay within the contract of the teacher. So the workload would be, the programs change as the students move up. So what we have at Churchill kind of mimics what was at Hammersholt years prior, so that's that position. So it would be one teaching position, but the students that are coming up, we need less support for them.
Okay.
Just another quick question on the special ed piece. All IEP recommendations will be upheld based on this? There won't be any change in any student's IEP?
A lot of it is the least restrictive environment and work we've been doing over the past couple of years.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, which lines were those
Those
again?
are 17 through 20.
All right, lines 17 through 20. Do we have consensus on this for the tentative to move forward? To my left? To my right? Yes, we
Okay.
have consensus there.
Okay. All right. Lines, rows 21 and 22. So this would be to replace 2 contracted speech services individuals with 2 East Brunswick Public School District speech therapist positions. So basically going from an outsourced service to bringing it in-house. And by doing so, this results in a savings. So just to make note, the contracted services go down by $258,336, and the cost for the 2 positions would be $198,706. So that's pretty significant savings there, without without really risking services that are necessary. In fact, I think even improving services.
And without impact to our staff.
No impact to our staff.
All right. Questions on that? No? Consensus? We're okay here, we're okay there, yes.
Thank you.
And we appreciate your patience with this process. It's like this when we do it, when we've done it in the past in committee. It is long and arduous, and we are trying to do this in the public for more transparency. But it is just like this, no matter where we do it. So, thank you for hanging in.
So next, rows 23 and 24, these are stipends, and this is the elimination of the summer ESL program.
Oh, I'm
And-
sorry, I thought we were a page ahead.
And this was being reinstated. We did not have this last year, I believe it was all paid out of title funds. So this was not something that was in the budget last year. We were trying to provide this service again for next year, but just could not sustain that, as you can see from the bottom line. So this is to eliminate that program for the summer.
Question, is there any alternative for those kids? Is there anything we can do?
And as we did last
Resources?
summer, we can look at seeing what funds are available for tutoring.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bowley.
How many students are participating in this program?
They usually invite the basic beginners and the beginners. So I don't know off the top of my head how many students are a level 1 or a level 2, but I'd say maybe 100.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Consensus?
Oh, sorry, and this is 100 across all grades, or?
Who would be invited to participate?
Yeah.
Across all grades.
Okay, thanks.
All right, but this was not something that was a part of our budget last year because it was funded separate. Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Consensus to move this forward on the tentative? Over here?
Yes.
Yes, all right, we have that.
Thank you. On page 4, row 25, these are stipends. This is the abolishment of Saturday detentions at the high school. This is a recommendation that came from the high school because it doesn't work. Correct, Dr. Bouchard?
Pretty much.
Yes.
I felt like that would be one where we would still want our high school students to hear.
Question.
Any questions about that?
And maybe Dr. Bashir, you can answer this. So instead of the Saturday detention, I'm assuming ISS is,
We can look at different options, whether it is ISS or lunch detentions.
To see what the
while
data
kids
is
are
on
actually in the building, because getting them there on a Saturday has been a whole
tedious.
so.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? All right, consensus on line 25 over here? Yes, in
Yes.
here? We're
Yes.
good? Okay, we're good on
Okay.
25.
Okay. Okay, rows 26, 27, and 28 are all related to Fairview, and this is the elimination of the Fairview trip. That is, I apologize, I just want to note what the amounts were. So for transportation costs, $55,000. For the fees associated with the destination, $119,000. And the offsetting revenue for student payments, that was $72,500.
Any questions? Besides that this one's sad?
Yeah, just to, so this means complete, we're taking the whole thing away, it's not even a
Yes.
day trip at this point?
Yes.
Is that, and again, this is unfair to ask, but I'm hoping that in the future we can reconsider, at least putting in a day program at some point, you know. in the
And I think
future.
there's been, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's been discussion where PTA has looked at potentially doing fundraising to be able to run the program, so that would be outside of the budget.
Okay.
So I don't think that removing this at this point means that it's dead altogether.
And that's my question.
Right. But I think it's too premature
Okay.
to say, you
And I
know, what
understand.
that may be.
I would like to add to it, though, that even for the PTAs, that is a very substantial ask. I
lot.
think it is out of, from a PTA mom perspective, I think it is out of the range of what even the most aggressive PTA could do. None of us should have to do any of this, but. All
I
right,
have a
any other
question
questions?
about Fairview, or at least can we find some other type of experience, maybe something closer, maybe just trying to figure out something else for them, maybe not within this year's budget, but the following year. I don't know if that's an option. Okay.
I can't answer that.
Okay.
Yes.
Why is the transportation $55,000? That seems pretty steep.
Oh, we charter bus up kids in groups, so it's multiple charter bus trips over the course of
Yeah,
how
they go up
long?
in three separate groups that go up. So it's not just one group of students going, it's three separate trips. So
We-
break that up to each of those trips,
So-
you start coming up with that number.
We can't do that in our own buses?
No, no. Our buses are already committed.
It's during the school week, during the school day. so-
Having gone to Fairview twice, it's a lot of buses.
It is a lot of buses.
So just on that same vein, and I think, Lori, your idea is fantastic, but also maybe we can work with the town at some point to try to figure out what we can maybe do with the town, because it would just seem to be a shame that these students, upcoming students, don't get an opportunity to do anything like that. I mean, I think for those who've been there, it's tremendous, you know, and I know we all agree on that,
Yeah.
but I just want to keep that door open if we could for the future, so thank you.
Okay.
I have one more thing, please. In removing the Fairview trip from the budget, does that give us more leeway to find these alternate revenue sources to fund the trip? If nonprofits were to make donations, PTA fundraising, does that change the scope of fundraising for us?
I don't think it changes the potential for fundraising, but it's a matter of how much. I mean, that's, as was already pointed out, so it's a significant amount of money.
Yeah. To follow up with that, my understanding is donations to the district may not necessarily be able to be earmarked depending on their nature. However, if this were not on our budget, that was kind of my but I could be mistaken as well.
I don't like to use donations because if someone is, let's say, granting funds to the district, usually the party would like to have a tax benefit for that. We're not a nonprofit organization, so there's no tax benefit. What folks have done, and we've recommended, is make that donation to the foundation and channel it through the foundation for whatever it might be. And the foundation being a 501c3, the individual can then get the tax benefit.
Exactly where I was going with it, but I didn't want to make assumptions about organizations. Thank you.
Just for context, our last budget crisis back in around 2010 or so, do we have examples of programs that we lost at that time that we then brought back?
Elementary world language.
Perfect.
That we
Yeah.
brought back.
Yeah.
Sorry, I jumped too soon on
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
Nothing's jumping out at me right now.
Okay.
You know, it's difficult, and I think based on the outlook, I think it's very difficult to commit to, well, we'll bring it back next
Sure.
year.
Right.
I certainly, we would want to keep it on the list, but I think as you'll see, as we get further on the list, there were items that were put back last year that
In
are
row.
on the list to take out.
Okay. But then the fact that there were items on the list last year that were put back says that it is possible. That's basically what I'm looking for.
Last year was stabilization or no?
No, we'll get there.
Oh, okay.
We'll get there. I don't want to.
Excuse me.
I don't want to jump.
Okay.
Ahead. It's anything is possible, but then if we can talk about the probabilities, and that's a whole other issue. I do want to make a note, just when I had the slides up earlier. So if you look to the last page of the document, you know, where we are on the bottom line. So, and, you know, I want to make sure that everyone understands this. So, the offsets that we have for discussion are more than the gap that we have to close right now. So there are going to be choices that can be made, but I would just recommend that let's get through the list, and then we don't have to do it tonight, but some food for thought in terms of, you know, what we might want to restore. Make sense?
And that actually gives us the opportunity. We go through tonight, but when we have a little bit of give, it gives us time to go home, digest, and consider where the priorities need to be for the kids.
So for rows 26, 27, and 28, consensus?
I just want to say, I know the Fairview trip is very emotional for a lot of families. You know, 2 of my children will have gotten to go. 1 of my children under this will not get to go. But it's a luxury item, and there are things that I want to make sure we have in the classrooms for our kids besides that. But that's just my point of view. I'm one of 9. Consensus over here for the temporary, or the tentative, over here? Begrudgingly, I think all of us, yes.
Okay, row 29, this is a recommendation that came from Hammersholt, the elimination of student agenda purchases. That's $4,740.
Over here and over here? Okay, yes, we have consensus for that.
Thank you. Rows 30, 31, and 32. These are non-personnel. Row 30 is the elimination of the Naviance program for Hammersholt. It's not being utilized at Hammersholt. No need for it to be utilized at Hammersholt. That's $8,600. Row 31 is the elimination of access to Naviance at Churchill. That's $9,500. And then row 32 is the elimination of a component in Canvas, which is a training portal that we can do without, and that's $3,700.
Can you clarify the difference between eliminating the Naviance program and eliminating Naviance access? Is that really the same thing? Yeah,
Yeah, same
okay,
thing.
great.
Same
Thanks.
thing?
Mhm.
Same thing.
It's just written differently in the two rows.
That program, that access to the program, so they would retain it at the high school.
Got it.
I have a question. Oh.
Yes.
For the Naviance, since we have ninth grade at Churchill,
Yeah.
do we know how much they access or use the Naviance?
I mean, we could definitely look and see. I don't have that information right now.
Ms. Amachiro is confident that she could give that up in ninth grade and start that in 10th grade.
All right, do we have consensus on 30, 31, and 32? Okay over here, we're okay over here? All right, yes.
Thank you. Okay. So now, rows 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, and 38. These are reductions in full and part-time teaching staff in grades K to 4. These are for elementary teacher specials, and this is possible through revision in elementary schedules. That is, so I'll go through what these savings are. 95,603, 95,603, 95,603, 32,125, 95,603, and 64,250.
Will that have,
Three, four,
can I ask, will that have impact on the students' access to those classes? Will that change their schedule?
What will change is that the special period, now the children are getting an hour, and now they will get 45 minutes of instruction instead. So that can maximize the schedule for the staff involved. So they'll still be getting the same programming, it'll just be 45-minute period instead of an hour.
Is line 38, it says part-time, but then it says 1.
2 part-time positions.
Oh, 2, got it.
Can, just as a reminder, the specials, is it 1 per day that they get, that they rotate through?
Yes.
So that's basically, we're cutting like 15 minutes off
Yeah,
one
of
of the
each.
times that they get to actually not learn. So.
They're learning.
No, I know. Creatively learning, yes, but I feel like it's, it's a break that I think some kids need. I think it's tough.
Any other questions, comments?
Sorry.
What would we do with that additional time? How would that be utilized to enrich our students?
They'd be with their classroom teacher.
Okay, so that would be discretionary of the teacher to use that time? Thank you.
Would that be, I don't see, would that be okay within the teacher's schedules?
It fits within the teacher's contract, yes.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. All right, thank you. Anybody else? Did you have a question? I'm sorry, I
No,
feel
that
like I cut you off.
That
Okay.
answered the question.
All right. All right. I'm not a fan of this one. Consensus over here?
Yes, hesitantly. I mean, I think it's something that maybe we could put out in the revisiting if you want.
It is evil.
Over here?
Saying
Yeah.
yes
Yeah,
now doesn't commit
reservations.
us at the end.
The question is saying yes now doesn't commit us at the end?
No, it's just getting us to a tentative budget.
Say yes.
Yes.
Begrudgingly again.
I feel the same way about this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I've lost what track. Okay.
We're on now rows 39 and 40. This is the abolishment of a 7th grade science teaching position due to retirement and replacing a position with 6-period stipends. So the savings on the position is $95,603. Incurring the 6-period stipends comes out to $43,140. So that's approximately a $52,000 plus net savings.
Do the non-teachers?
Just to clarify, this is a position that's being, where someone's retiring and we're just not refilling, okay?
But by creating
Is that-
the 6th period, it also stops us from incurring health benefits on new.
Right.
on new staff.
It also just, the teachers teaching the 6th period also will get additional remuneration for doing that extra work. So your existing staff will actually make more money. They'll have to work an extra period, but they get paid for that.
Sure. Does the educational experience for science at 7th grade suffer from that?
No. It's current staff who would be teaching.
Okay.
Consensus over here? Okay, over here? Wilbur, you okay with that one?
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Okay, thank you. Row 41, this is eliminating co-teaching model in honors music classes, resulting in reductions in 6-period stipends. This is at Churchill. This is value of $17,256.
So this is not reduction of a
Not
staff member,
Correct.
it's just the stipend position, the
Yes.
extra period. Okay. Questions? All right, consensus over here?
Yep.
Over here? We're okay with this one.
Okay. Row 42, this is double the late-in and early-out option for eligible 12th grade seniors, which results in a reduction of 3 6-period stipends. The value is $25,884.
I'm trying to figure out how that works. That's the reduction of offering of some electives?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, hi.
I didn't know.
Can you explain that?
Based on senior schedules, eligible seniors have already met all their graduation requirements, and they're most likely taking additional electives. By having a double early out or late in, it opens up seats for underclassmen, but also it could possibly eliminate at least 3.
So, Dr. Bouchard, I hate to put you on the spot, but I invite you to come and take a seat up front, because I'm sure there will be other questions on other items that you may have to help with responses. That's not up front.
As always, we need to move the bears.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a consensus on that?
I'm sorry, consensus on that?
Yes.
Over here? This is like getting rid of Saturday detention, seniors everywhere. Just
Yep.
feel happy.
Okay. So, this next, I'll take the rows 43, 44, and 45 together. These are all 6-period stipends. The first one is the elimination of 6-period stipends for elective classes for core content areas, which would be ELA, math, science, history, unless it's absolutely needed in order to optimize scheduling. That's at the high school. Well, all of these are at the high school. That dollar amount is $69,024. The next one is eliminate Spanish electives, which result in a reduction of 4 6-period stipends. That's 34,512. And then the next one is optimizing the delivery of gen ed study skills, resulting in a reduction of 11 six-period stipends. That's 94,908.
But that's no reduction in staff positions?
Correct.
Just the sixth period? Okay. Any questions about that?
What are the Spanish electives currently that would be dropped
I
then?
know this.
Go for it.
I'm going to assume they're the senior Spanish electives for people that aren't choosing to take the advanced placement class, which would be Spanish for medicine and Spanish for business. Dr. Bashar? Thank you.
If I can, I just want to commend the district for offering things like that. Having learned Spanish and using it daily because of the skills I learned here, it's great that we have language, and this one really hurts me too.
Consensus?
All right, I'm still being amazed that I knew something about Spanish, but consensus over here?
Yes.
Okay, over here? All right, we are moving along.
Okay. All right, next, rows 46, 47, and 48. Now, this is the elimination of ninth grade athletic program. Ninth grade, not middle school sports.
Doesn't matter.
I'm sorry. $66,800 for coaches, $8,096 for the related officials' fees, and $36,873 for transportation.
So to put this in terms that I can understand, this means we won't have freshman sports teams, but we will still have JV and varsity teams?
Ninth grade would participate in JV.
In JV.
They would try out for teams
Right.
and be able to participate at that
Yeah,
level.
so just basically no separate freshman team?
Correct.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so I have a question. So before we had talked about taking Naviance away from the freshmen, understand if the supervisor of guidance feels that's appropriate, that's fine. At this point now, we're looking at taking away all freshman sports. Now, for those kids, in order for those multitude, and I do believe we're talking about hundreds of kids, for those kids to go to the high school, they're gonna need transportation. Has that been factored into here as well?
Transportation, we already have shuttles built
Addi-
into the budget.
Enough for all those kids to go? Because I know in the past, we haven't always had enough.
I'm pretty sure, but we'll double check on that.
Services.
Do we know how many ninth graders currently play sports? I don't think so.
On the freshman teams?
Yeah,
How many play sports?
like on freshmen,
On
like
the
how many
freshman
are,
teams.
like how many do we have on
Well, I
freshman
mean,
teams?
Mr. Malta's not here tonight, but I would say it's in the hundreds. I'd say a very good percentage of our kids at least try out, and they use freshman sports, as they do middle school,
Right.
to see if they like something. And we
Right.
have phenomenal coaches and a principal who welcomes the after-school activity that's there. And it's really made it kind of like what you see at the high school, where you see kids hanging out because they want to
Oh,
be
yeah.
there after school in a positive, and I know you know
I think
this.
you and I have had
Yeah, we've had many
discussions
discussions on this.
very
So,
recent, so.
I
Yeah.
don't know if there's anything else I
Yeah,
can say.
I think this is a hard one. Do we know the competition? Like, are there other
That's what I was
schools
going to
that have
ask,
ninth grade
because
teams
I
that were
know,
playing?
I know having had freshman athletes, that not every school fields a freshman team, but I don't know
That's
how deep
excellent.
that goes.
Excellent point. We don't have a problem fielding any freshman team.
Right, but they don't always
But-
have competition when
But
we go
there's
to
enough
play.
competition in the county that we can have a schedule. So as some of us recommended, reduce the schedule, but continue to have all these sports. So instead of playing 25 games, maybe you play 15 or 20, but you're still with your coach every day, you're still with your program, you're still being supervised, and you still get a chance to do what you love.
Is there a possibility for a reduced schedule? Could that be something that's on
That
on
has
the
been
table?
recommended.
A reduced ninth grade sports schedule?
Also, which
Or
was.
capping teams? Like, I hate to
That
say
was
that
suggested.
too. But maybe capping teams, like, I know them, we're setting, like, the same, like, we want to give everybody the opportunity. I totally agree. But what if, like, what other thoughts can we think of outside the box to kind of be like, how do we sustain this, right? Because then we have to think about sustainability. Because we say, okay, it's not on the table this year, but we know going forward that we're going to be cut possibly up to 3% again next year. So how do we look at sustainability to keep these teams or anything that's not always comes up on the chopping block and we're in this same way? So maybe if it's not, like you said, condensed schedule when it comes to teams. Maybe they participate at the same, and I just know like JV and varsity, a lot of times they travel together to their games. JV goes and then the varsity goes after. So is there the opportunity? I know that we're extending nights, but what are other thoughts or options regarding this?
Well, when we add the freshmen, we add the number of
Yeah.
buses. We
Yeah.
add the number of buses. I mean, if you look at the cost here, and I'm looking at it too, I'm a big sports parent, so this one is difficult for me. But the transportation is a large number. The officials is not a terribly large number.
One of the things that
Where's
we've
the
talked
coaching?
about
46.
Oh,
is.
the coaching is the big number.
Yeah. Well, we've also talked about possibly raising fees for athletics.
We haven't gotten there yet.
We-
It's on the
okay.
list.
I just want to make sure that that's also part of any conversation with cutting any sport.
It's on the list.
Or activities. Thank you.
Is there a freshman sport for every sport that's at the JV and varsity level?
No.
No.
Okay.
I don't know that we have consensus on this one. I don't think that we do.
No.
This
Nope.
is a no.
Okay.
I would prefer that, I would say no, and I would like to go in further with what Lou said and see if there's any way we can, do a reduction in the number of games to keep something for
Yeah.
the kids.
I understand that. I do think when you look at the numbers, and I do not wish to get rid of freshman sports, but when you look at the numbers, the largest amount there is for coaching,
Right.
which
Yeah.
doesn't change.
Yeah, I think, the coaching stipends are going to be paid regardless. So the potential would be reduction in transportation costs by reducing the number of games, away games, not home games.
So, maybe the stipends are different from when I was working, but they were, some of them were based on the number of hours. So if there was a stipend that, instead of a 40-hour stipend or what, if it was cut down to a 20-hour stipend. I don't know if we have our union president here.
They're not the same as
As
club
a-
stipends.
as
That's
as
what
a
I
club.
wasn't
It's
sure.
just
For the advisors, they're not the same.
It's different, okay.
Another recommendation that also kind of feeds into this is a recommendation was made that we try to host more games, which would also take away. Some of our
That's what he was just
competitors
saying.
don't have as good of, fields that we have or facilities. So to have potentially request, and I think Mr. Malta would probably have no problem doing this, asking some of those schools if they'd like to come to see us. So maybe we reduce schedule to 15 to 20 games, and maybe you can get 12 of those games at home. There's another big reduction on transportation. Coaching salary, and again, I don't want to get too far into this. These people put so much more time in
I
that
was
they
gonna
get
say, we
paid.
can't- there's
that
no way to reduce
To
coaching
reduce any of
salaries.
this
It's
is almost a slap
so
in the
much
face,
time.
and I appreciate, listen, I get where you're coming from, and I thank you, Dr. Brown. But I would just hate to see us give them even less money for doing so much for our community.
Yeah, it doesn't, when you look at the coaching stipends for the hours, it's insane as it is, the amount of heart and effort they put in there. All right,
And,
so.
sorry, I just want to go back to a question I had asked a while ago. Again, just for the sake of clarity and transparency, this proposition came from Churchill, given that it's the ninth grade, correct?
This came
The suggestion, yeah.
Yeah, this came from the Churchill team and the athletic director.
Right, so it went through the athletic director as well before it got to us. All right.
Okay, so let me just clarify that if I can. I would assume that we approached the school and the athletic director and asked for cuts that had to be made. And I would guess that you were probably told, I would only think just from all these discussions we've had for many years, that if we had to cut something, which is a bad way to start a conversation. So I think if you said if you had to cut something, ninth grade would be on the table. I still disagree with it.
All right. We do not have consensus on ninth grade sports.
That's fine.
So,
Okay, rows 49 and 50. This is graduation transportation. Students and their parents would be responsible for getting students to graduation. And the same would hold true for staff having to get themselves over to graduation. So the transportation graduation is $34,500. That would be offset by having to pay mileage for staff to get themselves to and fro, and that's approximately $2,600.
I have a question on this. What is the fee that we pay for the arena that we are in for the 3 hours we're there? About approximately? I know I'm not, again, I don't mean to put you on the spot, Mr. Giuliano, but I'm just trying to
In a second.
figure it.
I recall last year, you guys looked at the cost of setting it up outside.
It costs more to do it.
It costs more to do it here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
no.
rent all the chairs.
Yes.
and-
Chairs are that expensive?
When
we wanted to
when
do
we got-
that. To do it at the stadium was more.
When we got into the costs to do it here, so covered stage, you need protection on the field, because you can't just put the chairs
Sure.
on the field. Rental of the chairs, it all came out to a significant amount more than it did to continue to go to the arena.
So may I just make a recommendation then for the future? Maybe we look at a different outlets. I know Rutgers does graduations. I don't know, again, some of the schools that are probably already going there have the premium dates. But I do think if we're talking about, saving money on graduation, we want our kids to have a great experience. That's why I thought doing it at home it was, very nice a couple of years ago, but I know weather and all that has to come into it as well. But if it's a cost savings, if there's any way we can at least have it on paper somewhere that says, well, we've looked at these other places and we're getting the best deal, best bang for our buck. That's all I'm looking for.
Graduation facility, $19,000.
Okay.
All right, do we have consensus just about the graduation transportation?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, rows 51, 52, and 53. These are discontinuing late buses at Churchill, $199,030. Discontinuing late buses at the high school, $181,861. And discontinuing late buses at Hammersholt, $52,920.
So I'll clarify that this, because I think people will hear that and get concerned, this is not the activity buses to the high school.
No.
These are just late buses.
Yes. And I think there's conversation regarding at Hammersholt moving those clubs and activities to the morning so that kids would be able to participate in those in the morning rather than not do anything at the end of the day if the late buses weren't there.
How many kids do we think this may impact?
I don't have that number off the top of my head.
Do we have any opportunity for alternate transportation then for families who may have need? Because I know that this is a valuable resource for working parents.
Not that we would provide.
No, and this was there last year. I appreciate the movement of activities at Hammersholt to the morning. I personally struggle a great deal with discontinuing late buses at the high school in Churchill, and I would ask that that be something that's like a last resort, because I think it creates inequity in access to clubs and activities for some children. but that's just me. Any other questions, thoughts there?
Is there room to, any cost savings by reducing the number of buses? I'm relatively sure they're not all packed, or combining routes so that one bus covered, I mean, it would be a longer trip for the kids, but could cut back on the number of buses that way.
We've divided the town into 6 zones, just to try and we've done this for a number of years, and that's to make sure that students get close to home in a reasonable amount of time. This is not door-to-door service. There are key areas where students are dropped off. I don't know. I can't speak to, dividing up, going from 6 zones to 5, to 4, to 3. I think we take that cost and just divide it up, and I don't know that we're necessarily going to get anything out of that.
To President Goss's point, I do think that does, especially at the high school level, may lead to some opportunities lost for some of our kids that may need clubs or activities to put on their resumes for college. So I would hope we can factor that one out while we're voting. I would like to see the high school late buses potentially not be on this chopping block at this point, just for those kids who may need those extra components for their colleges.
And for the point of just the public in general, this is not about athletics. The students that are playing sports are not riding these late buses. They get out much later. As a
Right.
sports mom, much later. This is just clubs and activities. They sure do. I mean, I'm in the same place I was last year. I voted with a great hesitation to put that as a reduction on the tentative budget because it is a very large amount of money that is not cutting people from the classrooms for our students, but it was one of my priorities personally to get back when we had the opportunity to try to bring back, but that's my point of view.
Just in looking at the numbers, the difference of the offsets of discussion and shortfall are approximately almost $670,000. This busing we're discussing is over $400,000, just to give relative perspective of how much wiggle room we have. I'm not saying I agree or disagree, it's just a statement of numbers.
All right, do we have consensus on this? Begrudgingly?
I mean, I would be more willing to eliminate buses at the
Do we want to do a
lower.
grade by grade?
Can we
or
do
grade
that?
level?
That would just fit me personally.
All
I
right,
think that might be fair.
Do we have consensus on Hughes?
Yes.
Okay, we have
Yes.
consensus on Hughes. Do we have consensus on Churchill?
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
All right, that was Hammersholt consensus, that was a yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we have consensus on Churchill?
Yes.
Two?
Yes.
Yes, okay. We have consensus on Churchill.
Mhm.
Do we have consensus on the high school?
No.
We do not have a consensus on the high school.
I'm just keeping a little tally here on
Mhm.
the side. So, I mean, obviously, these are hard decisions, hard discussions and hard decisions.
No, and I really appreciate the thoroughness of the discussion here because this has always been, well, we haven't always had to do this, but last year this was horrible, but this is even harder in this format.
So, we have, as I said earlier, we have a little bit of a buffer. That was about $669,000. So far, we've taken almost half of that. So just so everyone's aware. Okay.
54?
Row 54. 54 is a reduction to bus driver schedules from 8 hours to 7 hours a day.
And we said that didn't have any impact on the actual bus routes
No.
for the students.
Does that affect, they're still considered full-time employees?
Full-time with benefits.
With benefits, okay.
But,
thank
but it would be, salaries would be
Would just go
based
down.
on a 7-hour day, and that is $264,497.
Now, does that take into consideration what we just voted on? For instance, the reduction
Separate.
of some of those?
Completely separate.
So that would, those are the reductions that we're talking about as far as like middle school and Churchill bus routes and all that, has no effect on that, so it's,
Right, so
It's an
the
additional-
Churchill routes for late buses are contracted buses
Okay.
because we can't handle that.
Gotcha.
The Hammersholt routes are based on our buses,
Okay,
but we should still be able to do that.
thank you.
Or, I should say that because the consensus was to reduce, but it's
Yeah.
not, that's extra. It's extra on their schedules.
So in theory, and again, I'm not, I don't want to pin you down, but we were talking about the high school and having still continuation of buses there. But there are no
They're
used.
contracted
Oh,
services.
but they don't have to be if the buses that would go to use don't go to use anymore, right? Because those are our buses.
Depends on the schedule.
Gotcha, all right. I just want to make sure that
Because
this
the
is
Hammersholt
all part
schedule
of
is
the
different than the high school.
The Hughes late buses are overtime for the drivers.
So that would mean we couldn't reduce, well, I get you.
It's beyond.
Beyond the.
There's
Beyond the regular
hours.
workday.
So that would be a different number.
And, right, and the
Okay.
high school late buses run when elementary students are being bused
Right.
home, so we can't use our drivers to do that. because
Right. Well,
they're driving
that's
around with students
understandable. Okay, thank you.
So 54.
54, do we have consensus on reducing the length of the day? Yes, yes, we are good for that, yes.
Okay. All right, row 55 and, well, we'll take them individually. Row 55 is discontinuing absorbing the credit card fees for online payments. So that would, that fee would be incurred by the credit card holder. That's worth about $120,000.
Are parents able to come in and pay with a check rather than paying online with a credit card?
The registration all has to be done online.
Okay.
Can you use a debit card? I think if you use a debit card, there's no fee.
It's a lower transactional
Yeah.
Okay.
There's still a fee.
But there's still a fee.
Okay.
How long has the district been absorbing that fee?
A number of years, long time, since we put in the
Community
online community pass.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, questions or consensus on that?
Lots of restaurants have an upcharge.
Yeah, consensus? All right, sadly, yes.
Okay, next one will not be a popular one, but this is also related to fees. This is increasing the fees for clubs, activities, and athletics to $30 and $125 respectively. And that is, that calculates out to $191,070.
Can you share the current rates?
Current rates.
Currently, athletics are $50.
Yeah.
Yeah, and clubs are 15, I
Clubs are
think.
Clubs are
15.
15.
And how long has it been that? those
15 years, I think.
About 15 years.
Okay. So when you look at it that way, it does seem like there's some room. One other concern that has come up before is families with multiple children. And I think maybe at some point we could talk about capping.
We
the
tried
the
looking at
athletics.
that, and it doesn't work, but we can talk further.
All right, I'd like to talk a little bit further about it, that's all. Thank you.
And then, how much, like, if you were to raise these fees, how much then would it cover of the stipends for these after-school clubs? Would you raise the number of kids necessary to be enrolled in a club in order to run a club?
No, no, it's the same numbers. We haven't looked at raising the number of students that need to participate in each of those. This is based off of the participation rates that we've been able to document.
Is there a opportunity for people who don't meet a certain income threshold?
Yes.
That's always-
We already have free and reduced, and those students do not pay. Okay.
All right. Sorry, I'm taking the deep breath
Yeah.
on that number as, you know, with multiple children playing in multiple seasons, that's a lot, but I understand the need. 15 years with no increase is a very long time. Do you have consensus on this side for this? Wilbur, are you okay with this one?
Just looking up something really quick, if you don't mind.
We'll be back to Wilbur in a moment. Over here, consensus? All right, back to Wilbur.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Row 57 and 58 are non-personnel, non-transportation, non-athletic. These are elimination of the staff management portion of Genesis. The Genesis contract, that's worth $5,623. We're going to look at doing that in an alternate means, correct? And the next one is the elimination of the Oracle licensing fees. That is the database, and we're going to do that through a different database process in-house. That's $2,431. So
Are we okay with that over here?
that should be an
Over
easy
here?
one.
Yes, we feel that is an easy one. Next one's less
Okay.
easy.
Row 59, we'll take that one on its own. The budget the budget bottom line has included in it two new BCBA positions that were requested from the special ed department. The department has come back and said that the department can remain in compliance with only one of those, and that the second one can be removed from the budget. So this is removing the second one from the budget. That's worth $99,353.
It's good that compliance is being maintained. How about the workload?
Well, this is, right now we have two.
Yeah.
This is going up an additional position,
I
so
see.
actually more kids will be serviced next year.
Okay.
Yeah, so instead of 4, we'll have 3, but it's still one more than we have this year.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure the math fits for everybody,
That's
because that's a
correct.
big deal. That's the
Will
only
we
reason why
able
I'm saying yes to
meet
this.
the IEPs?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, but we've been outsourcing some of the, going through like another budget line because we've had so many, but we're still able to do that with the third BCBA, and then hopefully down the line, you know,
Yeah.
we would be able to go back to a fourth, but, so we're still going up one.
All right. Consensus on this? We're okay with this? We're okay with this? We're good with that.
Okay. Okay, row 60, 61, 62, and 63. So I'm going to start out with row 60. But let me get through row 63 before there's any reaction, okay? So row 60 is the elimination of contracted therapeutic mental health services. That would be replaced with 3 dedicated 10-month student assistance specialist positions. This has come from the administrators who are boots on the ground with this. So the reduction in the contracted services is $472,500. And then each of the 3 positions that would be created to provide this service would come in at $102,863.
So
Are the,
we're
um,
saving about 170,000?
Saving about, yeah, saving about
Yeah,
170.
yeah. Are the positions being eliminated, those are outsourced
They're
positions?
outsourced.
Okay, and the replacement, is that in-house or is?
It would be in-house.
Great.
We'd be filling those positions with new people.
All for in-housing things whenever possible.
Yeah, especially with our own people.
Which is what we used to do, is that correct, before we contracted out?
Not with the mental health services.
Oh, okay.
So with this particular move, I just want to make sure, so you're eliminating the positions from the contracted. Now, in terms, normally, the contracted services are more stringent in terms of how many kids that they can service, and we have a little more flexibility, but we still want to make sure we do the job. So I want to make sure that this will handle the student, because I'm not, and I know none of us here want to see any mental health reduction, but when you say our own people,
Right.
that makes me very excited about the possibilities.
This should actually improve.
That's what I want to know.
Because one of the issues that the district has experienced is that we seem to have become a training ground for the contracted services. So the people come in, they train, they learn what they're doing, and then they leave. So we have this revolving door. Hiring our own staff should eliminate that revolving door issue and be able to provide a better level of service.
And continuity of care is far better in these situations than getting the doc of the day.
And I always believe in our own staff more than outside.
In
So it's
terms
a-
of licensure, it's an equal trade? The people coming in would have the same level of licensure as the ones going
Yeah,
out?
it's social workers, they have different types of licenses that they're hiring with the outside the contracted providers, and they're brand new. So the ones that they're bringing to interview with us, they're, wet behind the ears, and we start giving them scenarios, and they're having a very difficult time answering the questions that we're giving them. When our people, are a little more seasoned, and you just don't get much better than an East Brunswick, employee that's working with our kids.
So it sounds like addition by subtraction.
Yeah, and again, the continuity of care outweighs the licensing thing, I can tell you that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, consensus on that? We're good?
Yes.
We're good? We are good there.
Okay.
Line 64.
So we can take let's take 64 and 65. Okay, 64 is affects grades 7 to 8 band and orchestra, and 65 is grades 5 through 6 band and orchestra. This is the elimination of the co-teaching model. In both instances, these are positions, and the dollar value is, for the first, $223,331. For the second one, $191,206.
But that's not an elimination of the program.
Those, not the program, but it is the elimination of positions.
Okay, so just to be clear, because I think everybody should know this, the program will stay, there will be no effect to students other than the fact that there'll be bigger classes
Right.
to deal with, which is a factor.
Right.
Yep.
That is definitely a concern.
Yeah, what's the maximum number of students a teacher can have by themselves?
Well, currently our policy is 25.
Okay,
That's also
so
It's not codified in the law.
it's not codified in the law.
No.
Well, unless you're talking about like room space, which we're not talking
The only
about.
thing that's
Space.
codified, the only thing
Yeah.
that's codified in terms of students is self-contained special education.
Okay. Okay. Because just realize, I mean, obviously I'm biased because I taught at Churchill, I taught Churchill Orchestra. And I had classes of over 40. I think I had a class of 50. Now, I can't imagine how in the world one teacher could handle a class of 50. And I want you to think about this too. You're talking about 500 kids at Hammersholt who are in the band and orchestra program, and the same at Churchill, about 500 kids in band and orchestra. So that's an awful lot of kids for one staff or two staff members to handle. I don't see how that is possible, knowing the program.
Can I ask, can we get numbers on these prospective numbers? In other words, how many kids are in these classes now? And if the similar number will be in those classes next year? If we can do that at some point.
Making a note of that.
I think that would help us to make any decisions on the co-teaching model, because I do understand and agree with you. It's difficult
Right.
at
I mean,
best.
'cause I went to their concerts, so I counted, because I'm always a numbers person. I counted up how many kids are participating. I mean.
It's a great program.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
500 kids.
Gotta love it.
In one school. And this really does tie into, I know you said we were going to stop at 65, but this also ties into 66, which is eliminating fourth grade band and orchestra. And again, you're talking, off the top of my head, 475 kids participating in that program in 4th grade. That's like the size of an elementary school. Now, instead of throwing out the baby with the bathwater, which is kind of what this looks like, was there any thought given to eliminating some of the after-school stipends? I mean, I know it's not the same, but you do have a district band concert, which involves teacher stipends. You have a district orchestra, which involves a number of stipends, and then the corresponding concerts. You have after-school band and orchestra and jazz band at Hughes and at Churchill. At the high school, there are after-school. You have an after-school jazz band. You have, various choral programs. Instead of eliminating teacher positions where you're basically destroying a program by eliminating that many staff members, I would rather see the stipended positions eliminated or reduced to at least accommodate the children during the school day.
I'm going to devil's advocate a little bit.
Sure.
And I'm sorry, because we were trying to stay with just 64 and 65, but if you look at the final column, the numbers on those 3 rows in that final column, and it's not a just, but on the orchestra programs alone, would more than eat the entire little bit of wiggle room that we have. That would be all of it. So orchestra would mean it would be impossible to try to work with busing for more access for other children or sports that people are saying is a priority. It would be a very focusing of just one priority. And I do believe in music for children. I think it's a developmental part of the brain that they need to have access to. But we're not talking about getting rid of 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th grade. It is a change in staff, but stipended positions aren't going to also eliminate health benefits, which is, that's that final column, that's a lot of money there.
Just to put in perspective, those 3 items are about $807,000. The stipends, and I understand what you're saying, but stipends wouldn't come to, they wouldn't come to a tenth of that.
But the 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th is not to get rid of the program. It definitely will create challenges, but it's trying to maintain the program.
Right, so you would go from, well, I'm just, because I just did it adding in, you would go from the elementary, you would go from 13 and a half staff down to 5. Did I do that math right? You go from 13, this is Churchill, Hammersholt, and elementary music, which is 4 teaching positions. So 13.5 teachers currently to 5. And you're servicing approximately 1,500 kids now with 5 teachers. I don't see how that's possible.
Well, I guess with the 4th grade elimination, the students wouldn't be serviced. It would be.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
4th grade,
So you currently have 1,000 students between Churchill and Hammersholt, because there's about 500 in each school.
All right, can we work to try to separate them a little bit? Can we work on 64 and 65 before we get to 66?
I just have one remark actually about 64 and 65. There were no co-teachers when I was in the orchestra here in the 90s. When did we bring in the co-teaching model for the orchestra? Because I remember.
I'd have to say maybe 10 years ago.
Hasn't even been that long. The reason that we ended up with 2 teachers, and this was when I was teaching, because I had over 40 kids in a class. And, I mean, you think about it, 40, I think the highest I had was 52, something ridiculous like that, by myself, which is, impossible to manage, which is why these extra positions were added. And you think about the fact that these are elective classes, they're servicing an awful lot of kids. You have to have some place for the kids to go for electives. And here, you're able to accommodate that many. 500 in Hammersholt between the band and orchestra, and the same thing at Churchill. So that's a place where I don't think you could run. I don't see how you could run the program with the numbers that we currently have, and the number of the class sizes. And at Churchill they run orchestras every single period.
So just again, if we can get numbers on what currently is being done, because I want to make sure we're not looking at 50 in one class and 35
No.
in another.
Right.
I mean, presently.
No, I know.
And then also what the projections would be, because I agree with you, Dr. Brown. I mean, I don't understand, how we would be able to really service all of our kids.
Yeah.
You're looking at the ratios current to proposed.
Yes, that's what we need. All right, thank you.
I'm just surprised that you didn't have those, you didn't have those numbers.
I'm
That's
going to
just
ask,
kind of-
where did those numbers, or these recommendations, these came up from that department?
I'm not looking at anything.
Okay, I'm sorry.
There's a list somewhere with notes of who gave what, but I don't have it in front of me.
Okay. All right. On 64 and 65, do we have consensus on this? And then over here? All right, we are waiting, I think we are waiting for more information.
I'm
on
looking
that.
to see if I have that information.
Okay.
If I do, I'm happy to share it with you. If I don't, I do not. I have to go back to some other notes.
I mean, I do have the orchestra numbers. Do you want me to read them off? Or would you prefer
No,
to
we-
get them?
Yeah, let us do that.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so where did we stand on this one?
No consensus on
No?
64 and 65.
Okay. Row 66 is the elimination of 4 teaching positions related to fourth grade orchestra and band. This was originally slated for reduction in the fiscal '25 budget, but received a 1-year reprieve. This item is $382,412.
So just in terms of the number of students that participate in fourth grade music, last time I checked, it was 75% of the students. Is that
Yep.
still true? Okay. So we've been talking, and I'm not trying to pit one program against another, but we've been talking about the number of kids serviced by these programs. I find it very hard to justify eliminating a program that 3/4 of the fourth grade participate in. In addition, from a developmental standpoint, getting music in at this age is critical if these kids are going to have any chance at pursuing this long term. You can't just push this off to fifth grade. It doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. So I have a hard time with this one.
May I also I would like to know, I know you mentioned 75%. I want to know what the number of students total, not the percentage, the number of total, and if we can get a breakdown by each school. I think we need to look at this one again. This concerns me as well. I think this is the beginning of the love of learning music, and I get it. Listen, I know these are all tough, but I mean, if these are our babies, and I just think we need to do better.
And then, of course, the other issue is, the way that the program works is that when they're going up into fifth grade, they have an elective class. So that's where you're getting, 30, I think my classroom, I could fit 39 kids in my classroom when I was at Hammersholt. So you can't have 39 beginners at one time. So the whole idea is when they're starting in fourth grade, they're learning in small groups. It's a pull-out program. so that they play for a year before they get to Hammersholt.
And this is, please, just because I
Yep.
don't know the answer, so I'm asking. So this is all happening during the school day?
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
Has
they-
there been, okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, no.
No, I mean, there's an after-school component.
Okay.
Because what happens is you have kids from all 8 elementary schools, all the orchestra kids rehearse for, I don't remember how many weeks, 10 weeks.
So
and
all
then
the
they put
fourth
on-
grade?
All the fourth
Would
grade.
get together and do that?
And they
Okay.
fill the stage.
May I for a
I mean,
moment?
I've seen them perform, I just
Yeah.
didn't know
Yep.
what to.
May I just for a moment? If we are looking at, as a group, not touching 64, 65, and 66, we are not making the budget. We are just not. If we are looking at the costs we talked about earlier, keeping for sports,
Keeping
which
the-
was.
About
was it-
$101,000.
This was,
So, right now, we've had no consensus on the ninth grade athletics. And then the high school late buses.
okay, so if we were going to keep our no consensus on ninth grade athletics and the high school late buses, which allows our students to have equal access or greater access, and if we were willing to do the reduction on 7th and 8th grade band staff and 5th and 6th grade band and orchestra staff, then potentially we would be able to keep 4th grade orchestra.
Correct.
So, and
But
I-
we cannot, even if we get rid of, if we say, fine, get rid of ninth grade sports, get rid of late buses, I don't think we have the wiggle room to keep all 3 of these and make our budget at all.
So that's
I mean,
what I.
this is just,
Yeah.
and I love these programs because these are rich and these have developed over the years. But we can't, just that one block of all those orchestras, we can't keep it the way it is.
So what I'm asking, President Goss, is if we can look to modify, but not, take him out, is what I guess I'm asking. And I don't, that's why, if you're telling me the kids go every day to a class, is there a way to not have it be every day?
It's
and
every
have-
other day?
Okay, so maybe that even helps us, maybe reducing it, kind of like what I said with sports. If we can reduce the program but not eliminate it, we're still saving some money, and maybe have, traveling teachers to the different schools, and instead of having it every other day.
Well,
Well, what
that's the way the
mean,
elective program works, so
well,
it would be
we
whatever
would have to think
elective.
out of the box,
What
in
I'm
a
saying with
sense.
these numbers, though, is if we were willing to have consensus on, for the tentative, eliminating the co-teaching model at 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th, it would stop us from being able to save anything else moving forward, but we could keep 4th grade orchestra.
So, okay. So
I
that
think
would be
you-
line 64, 65, you're saying?
64, 65, we would need to have consensus on, and then 66 can potentially come off.
So basically what I'm hearing is that we would not be reducing program then, but we would be
Reducing
making
s-
class size quite large, which
Oh,
could be,
yeah.
would be a problem. I mean, there are times when it will be an issue, but
But
we're
we
not.
would be able to save 4th grade.
But we'd be able to save 4th grade potentially?
And the thing is, I mean, you really need those numbers. Without the
Yeah,
numbers
I
in
think
front of
so.
you, maybe you could get away with 1.5 teachers. I don't know. I
Right,
mean,
that's
you
fine.
have to look at those numbers.
For-
But the way it is right now, yeah.
For eliminating the co-teaching model, do we actually lose teachers?
Yeah, yeah, of
Okay.
course. You're losing
Yep.
8.5
Yep.
teachers.
If you look at
Yes.
column
No, I'm
L-
leaving out the grade 4.
Okay,
Just
you're
5,
moving-
6, 7, 8. That's-
Right.
So that's
You're leaving
4.5
4.5.
teachers. Okay.
Yeah, 4.5 teachers.
I would just ask if we could possibly revisit this after we get all the numbers in, because I do agree with Dr. Braun. I think we need the numbers, and if we can potentially be creative, we can make sure we can, keep programs. And it may mean that class sizes were gonna be big, but it's possible that the bigger class sizes maybe can get some kind of relief. I'm not sure, but we'd have to look at everything. Just-
My concern is that the board understands that if we are not willing to do anything with lines 64, 65, and 66, that we are making a decision that everything else in here that says it has to be cut has to be cut, and we have to go find something else to cut, because that puts us over the wiggle room that we had, which means getting rid of busing, getting rid of, you're trading, and it's a painful trade, but we're talking about if we want to save all of this orchestra exactly as it is, getting rid of ninth grade athletics, just like that.
Well, I think what we're saying, I know what I'm saying, is I'd like to see all the numbers before we make a decision on any of those programs, with the understanding that if it has to get to the point where there are bigger class sizes, but we can possibly save fourth grade, I think that's
Can I make a
more
suggestion?
reasonable. Yes, please.
So since, ultimately, we've got to get all of this data into the budget system, and our next meeting is the tentative budget adoption. Can I make a suggestion that we take a consensus, reverse a consensus on 64, 65 for the time being? Doesn't mean it's done, but it allows us to at least get the budget in a tentative place for approval. And then we can, in the meantime, we'll gather the data that has been requested, and
think that's fair.
additional conversations can take place.
Because they continue to work on the numbers. Every time
Right.
I talk to them, they're still working on the numbers. That evolves every day. But if we don't come to some consensus here,
Understood.
we have no tentative
Yeah,
budget.
I understand.
All right, so again, let us go back to 64 and 65. Can I have consensus just on 64 and 65? Are we
Yes,
okay
to
with
be
that?
discussed later, more. Yes.
Yep.
And over here? Okay.
No,
No?
no.
Okay.
Well, let me ask a question first,
Mhm.
okay? Quick calculation. The music program is going to save us a total, with the proposals that are here, the music program is going to save us close to $900,000, right? I don't see any other sector of the budget giving up that, saving us that much. So why is it that we're looking at the music program to save us an outsized chunk of budget money?
Well, we were just talking about just now,
Mhm.
only 64 and 65.
Sure, but I'd like to know how, okay, so 64 and 65 combined, that's, what, 420,000. Again, that seems like an outsized number compared to the other areas that we've been looking at in the budget.
Because you're looking at positions.
I understand we're looking at positions.
If you-
but it seems-
We still have another page to go
The other
after
page
this.
has some very
Mhm.
large numbers on it that are taking,
Can we
Right.
come back,
Yeah.
can we come
Mhm.
back to this, only because I'm looking at this, it's like a bloodbath. How
Mhm.
many more staff are we losing
Right.
in the other areas? Could we just table this temporarily and come back?
All right, why don't we move on? We can do that,
we can do that.
and we'll come back to
All right,
64 through 66.
67.
So 67, reduction of one PE teacher at Hammersholt. This is due to enrollment.
Questions? Consensus over here? Over here?
Yeah.
Okay. 68, this is the reduction of 6-period assignments associated with increased class sizes in social studies, math, English, and science. This is at Churchill. This came from Churchill Junior High School, the administration.
This is not a reduction in staff.
It's
This
not
is a
staff.
reduction
It's
in the
6 periods.
6th period
Mhm.
stipend.
And it's increases in class size. I do not recall what the benchmark was for that.
28.
26 to 28.
Where is it currently?
26.
No.
What is
No,
it
it's-
right now?
The range would be from 26 to 28. 22, 24 is right now.
I'm going to say, as an English teacher who's done that kind of increase, you feel it. You absolutely feel it. But at the same time, those increases save staff. And
Yeah.
I want to save staff.
Yeah.
All right, we're good over here. We're okay over here? Okay.
Okay. All right. 69. 69 is for Hammersholt, and it's revising the Hammersholt school schedule to align with the K-4 model. This results in a reduction of 10 teaching positions, $956,030.
Could you explain a little bit more how that would work and
Could you-
yeah.
Excuse me, could you please keep the conversation down? If you need to have a conversation, take it outside because it's distracting as we're trying to talk up here. Thank you.
This proposal would mimic the K-4 schedule. So in K-4, the children have one special a day. So that would be the model at Hammersholt. It would eliminate the A and B day schedule. It would just be, the one regular schedule. The language arts and social studies teacher would have the children half the day. The math science teacher would have them the other half a day. They would have a lunch period, and they would have a special period. With this, all of the cycle topics and most of the elective topics will be maintained, and they will be the specials. It also reduces the world language offering so that the children would select their world language and start level 1 in 7th grade now. We've heard a lot from parents that their children for graduation requirements are having to take higher and higher and higher levels once they're in high school, and it's very rigorous for them. Also, we've heard about the transition to Hammersholt and, mimicking what they're experiencing in elementary school could ease that transition for the students. So again, the students would have that one prep a day, that one special area a day, like they have in 4th grade. That's what the 5th graders would have. And we would keep the cycle, so the topics of the cycles. So they'd have 2 PEs a week as mandated. They'd have the STEM for half the year and the computers in the classroom for half the year. They'd have French or Spanish, say, 1 day a week. Music and movement and art half a year, half a year. 6th graders would have 2 PEs, a STEM half the year, coding half the year, a Spanish, French 1 day a week, and then the theater and family consumer science for half the year.
So I just have a quick question on that, and I appreciate, Dr. Bully, you're giving us that. So what are they losing? Basically, if you said, what's the main difference for the public to say, okay, if we were to say yes to this, what's the main difference? And then I want to piggyback that on asking, because you mentioned how the transition would be easier from elementary to the upper elementary, but how will that affect transition from upper elementary to Churchill?
So now the children have a cycle and an elective. So one day, on A day, they have their cycle, on B day, they have their elective. And they also have to commit to a world language in 5th grade. So by the time they get to, most colleges want to see 3 years of the same language. So by the time they get to 9th, 10th, 11th grade, they're in level 6. And we've heard a lot of complaints from parents about the rigor of that. So in elementary school, the children have one special a day. They go to art, they go to music, they have PE. So this would mimic that schedule and make it an easier transition for them coming in. And also, they would have more of an exposure to world language. They wouldn't be committing to their world language until 7th grade. So that would level down a little bit the rigor of high school for that.
Okay, so, but then their transition may be a little bit harder going into Churchill because they're so used to the elementary model when they hit 7th grade?
Well, perhaps they would have that opportunity for that elective in the when they're in the TCUs, which is a self-contained environment.
For now.
For now, right.
A little bit more mature.
Yeah.
They are, and I would say the programming could be maintained in this structure. The courses that are being offered are pretty much identical to what
is offered now. It wouldn't be the full year, it would be half a year, to have that exposure.
Thank you, Dr. Bowley, appreciate that.
Okay, so just so that I understand, so you're eliminating electives? Like you can have a full year art elective, that wouldn't happen anymore because you would have to have a cycle?
It
Because
would
right
be
now they
half
have-
a year. It would be linked with the music and movement. So half a year they would have that, and the other half of the year they would have the art.
And where would, I'm just throwing it out, where would band and orchestra fall? How would that work?
I guess it would look like the fourth grade model.
Which is?
Which is pull out.
So there would be no band and orchestra elective anymore at Hughes.
Just to broaden that, can you be more specific as to which 10 positions? I mean, I know we're not talking about people, but departments, or can we not get there in open session?
I would
Okay.
hesitate
We
to
can't
to
in the
do that.
public.
Right, only because it can be easily
That
figured out.
violates people's rights. That's not okay.
How many days a week are children currently in that 5th and 6th grade receiving foreign language instruction?
Every other day.
Okay. The reason I ask is because there is a critical learning opportunity for language, and having children commit later will delay their ability to learn fluency, in my opinion. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one more question. If we did not revise for the item, if we did not go with a K-4 model to reduce the teaching positions, have we explored alternate means of having electives which may reduce less positions?
Less offerings.
Yes, less offerings, but we still maintain some of the educators so that there is proper support for our teachers and students have their best opportunities.
Electives instead of cycles, but that's the scheduling issue, is who wants what.
Right, in an effort to maximize staff schedules, when the students have so many, 5 choices of world languages, multiple choices of electives.
Sure.
Some of the classes are small, so in an effort to maximize scheduling, this model was looked at.
If you don't mind me
No,
speaking.
please.
At Churchill, you're in mixed grade levels, right? So if an elective is being offered, 3 grade levels worth of children can go in there, so it's pretty easy to fill a class. At Hammersholt, the electives have been grade level specific. So if you're thinking about one particular elective that students are choosing across a variety of them, we've had a difficult time kind of filling those classes.
With too many
So we have a
offerings.
significant imbalance in how big those class sizes are compared to the, everywhere else, really, in the schools.
So reducing then the course offerings and streamlining this as opposed to an all or nothing, is that something that still can be explored?
It's just a matter of where you would put it in the schedule. So that's what we have now, right?
Okay.
Is we could do electives instead of cycles, right? We could do one or the other, but you're not going to reduce this number of teachers because you want to have a lot of options for them. Right? So you're not forcing them into something that they don't want to take for the entire year.
Understood.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Anyone else have more questions or thoughts?
I've kind of lost track. Mr. Juliana, can you give me like an exact number of teaching staff positions that you're looking to cut? on all of these pages. What's the total number?
I don't have the total struck on this document. I can do that after.
Yeah, it seems like an awful lot.
It is.
I mean, that's crazy.
Not just does it seem, it is.
Yeah,
but,
I'm not seeing, and maybe it's not on here because of, Rice. I'm not seeing any administrative cuts. I'm not seeing any, salary freezes administratively. Everything is coming from the teachers' union. I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly.
We can't discuss,
Yeah, I know.
we can't discuss personnel issues.
Right.
Here, we have more of the budget that we have to discuss in closed.
Okay.
So he can't answer that question
Got it.
without violating anyone's rights.
Well, but I
Right.
think the issue is there are additional cuts that could be made that are administrative that we just aren't going to be able to talk about here in public.
Right, but they're
It is
not-
part of,
Right, they are part of the overall list,
Okay,
and they are
that's important.
reflected in that total that I provided early on.
Okay,
So
and that's
this,
important.
So they're
this
already
number,
included in that.
this number includes things that will be discussed in closed.
I think it's
So
important
there's
for the
no-
public.
The things that we will discuss are not an additional.
It's not a buffer.
Buffer to this, it's with this. Anyone else questions?
Well, for purposes of a tentative budget, we're going to need to have consensus on the remainder of these items.
Or we don't
Because
have a
otherwise,
budget.
we don't have, we won't be even close to a balanced budget. So just a reminder that, that further conversations can be had on anything. This is not the end, and we have questions that, additional information will need to be forthcoming. And look, I acknowledge none of this is anything that anybody would want to be looking at.
So I think the important part of this is that if we agree tonight, it's agreement, but with the understanding we want to look more into it. But we do need to do something towards closing the gap.
Yeah, he's keeping, there's a list that's been
Okay.
evolving over here on the pad in front of me of questions that we're asking for more information on. That's not just getting brushed aside. We just can't get that right now. All right, I need to ask for number 69. Do we have consensus on this? It is a very large item. Jamie, how are we doing?
I can't say yes if it's cutting foreign language, but I understand that then our math is over, so I don't know that I have a choice but to say yes for further consideration, but with the hopes that we can find a solution.
Same. Over here?
I feel the same. I think this is another one that is very difficult because you're talking about reducing teacher positions and we're talking about, again, affecting cues, which we've tried to stay away from affecting that. And although I do think that there's points to where this could be a better transition model, because yes, we hear repeatedly about the transition to use, I think it's still a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe, if I heard you correctly, Anna, that this has implications on programming that would then be eradicated as well.
Right, like I mean, just on this page, I'm looking at 28 teaching staff.
Can we stay focused on the line,
Oh, I'm
please?
so-
I
I'm
mean,
so
really,
sorry. I'm
because
sorry.
we have other things to go through, and
Sorry.
If we discuss the budget
we'll
as
be
a
all over the
whole,
place.
it will legitimately be Tuesday.
Okay, sorry.
We're sorry. This is the way it is when we have cuts. And there's, I mean, except for looking at things where it's like, okay, can we get rid of this computer program? How much do we need it? it's real children, and it's real people, and it's real opportunities that we're changing. And it's always awful. But we kind of need to get consensus and figure out what we're doing here.
I think it's also important to remember that, these aren't because any of us want to sit up here and make, but we run the issue of if we can't come to an agreement on something and at some point submit a balanced budget, then we're basically telling the county and the state that they then have authority over that. And I don't want that to, I just think that we need to think short term of, yes, we're here tonight, we have questions and we want to get answers to those questions. And also thinking in the long term, there have been other districts that have not been able to produce a balanced budget, and then, we're providing other people the opportunity that have nothing at stake in our community to come in and decide what gets cut. And so I think while we think of the short term, we have to think of the long term too. These are all difficult cuts. Nothing sits well, and I think many of us last year felt the same. How do you pick one over the other? And I think that's what we're sitting here faced with. And it's such a moral dilemma, and I know that we're not alone. Countless other schools have continued to go through this over the years. And as we talk about adequacy and mediocrity, that's this is what we're faced with.
Yeah,
And
at the
it's
moment,
sad.
I have concerns because the state right now is not rewarding excellence. It feels with the budget system that the state is penalizing excellence. And there is a hard push on schools that are exhibiting excellence to be cut. So I have no confidence that if we don't balance our own budget, that anyone higher up is going to look at it and go, please preserve the excellence of their programs. I think that it would be disastrous.
Just to put in perspective, and yes, thinking about the impact of state aid, but between the state aid reduction and the increase to charter schools, which I believe comes out to roughly $2.1 million, that is row 69 and those other rows that we're going to go back to regarding music.
They really are pushing very hard towards mediocrity at best, which is not what we want for our children. But we need to get to some kind of tentative budget to move forward with. So I had consensus but unhappy over here. I am consensus but unhappy here. Over here? Okay.
Everybody's unhappy, and that's understandably so.
I know, but we have a very new board. And so this process it's not that it gets easier, but it is shocking to the system to do it all. And with this new of a board, I'm actually appreciative of everybody's movement together.
Okay, next row is 70. This is a reduction of 9 6-period assignments related to increasing class sizes. This is at the high school. This is worth $77,652.
So we broke open new sections to decrease class sizes and created point twos? Is that what I'm understanding? Or would this increase class sizes?
Increasing
Okay.
class sizes.
But that's not getting rid of staff, that's getting rid
No,
of the
this
extra
is-
period?
Right.
Okay. Questions about that? And that's an impact to the high school for those of us that are watching which levels are getting. And there's Dr. Bouchard on cue. Sorry, we were talking about the high school. He'll be turning around and going right back out that door. Questions? All right, consensus?
Yep.
And then consensus? Okay.
Row 71 is reduction of, these are 3 positions, one English, one practical arts, one social studies, related to increases in class sizes at the high school. This is $286,809.
Questions besides the horror of that one? Consensus over here? Consensus over here? Okay.
Row 72 is the reduction of one fine arts position at the, this is a position that is, I believe, shared between Hammersholt and the high school, and this is related to increasing class sizes. This is worth $95,603.
Consensus over here? Wilbur?
Yes.
Over here? Okay.
Row 73, this is increasing fees for ELA, after school, and early morning programs. This is worth $168,577. And I'm looking to see if I have,
Do we know what kind of an increase that's going to
Yep.
be? Asked the mother who pays
Yep.
for,
Also, Mr. Giuliani, can we hear are these fees normally increased every couple of years, or?
yep, so as a matter of fact, the board had approved an increase to these fees fairly recently. And we need to, if we're going to balance the budget, we're going to potentially look at a supplemental increase and consider what we had just had approved that was tentative. And I think for the future, as we approve those fees, those rates early on to get registrations going, I think we have to be very specific in saying it's a tentative until after the budget is finalized.
Thank you.
How close are our fees compared to the private sector?
Very competitive. Even with-
ELA is much less.
Right.
Even with the increase, and I'll get that additional information for the board, but even with this additional increase, we're still competitive to being out with any other provider.
Is there room to push that up then?
Higher, I think that would be risky.
I know, but we're also talking
You
about
want me to
cutting.
say yes,
We're also
and-
talking,
and-
we're also talking about cutting teacher positions, so there's that.
You're not gonna make up that much on this.
Okay.
Any other questions on this one? All right, consensus over here? Over here?
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Grade 74 and 75 go together. This is increasing class size cap for K through 4, which means reduction in sections. So I think in this instance, it's worth looking at a picture so you can see what we're talking about in terms of class sizes. So yes, you're already prompted. I'm going to put a worksheet up there, and we're going to look at each of the grade levels, just so that you can see where that change resulting in the reduction in these positions, where that's coming from and what that is doing to class sizes. So, and board members, if you have difficulty seeing this, you may want to relocate just for a couple of moments. But, so this is the analysis that we do, looking at what our enrollment is, given a particular point in time, and what does that do going forward. This is each grade level, and each elementary school. So the green shaded area is what the enrollment, current enrollment is. This was a snapshot as of January 13th. And then the blue highlighted area is what is that projection for next year? And it's a straight line projection. What you see in the last row of the blue highlighted area, average class size, is providing what is the average class size based on the number of sections, which is in the row right above. In this case, in kindergarten at Lawrence Brook, it was originally factored at 4 sections. That's been revised to 3 sections, bringing average class sizes to 21. That was the only place where that was possible across the kindergartens. Because if we made any changes to any of the others, and first of all, Bound Monroe is an anomaly because there are 2 sections there, average of 13, but if you look, what happens if we just make that 1 section? That puts it up to 25. That's beyond, I think, where we want to go. Similarly, if we look at Central, for example, where the average class sizes are currently 16, and there's, based on three sections, if we change that to 2, that puts the class sizes up to 24. So I'm not sure that that's necessarily what we want to do across the board in the elementary level. But there are positions, are sections where we can, we believe we can make reductions that give us the 7 positions that are listed here. And so I just want to go through that. So kindergarten is one area. Grade 1, you see at Frost, and it's in the goldenrod highlighted field. Frost at grade 1 was originally 4 sections, bringing that down to 3. The numbers are still reasonable across the board. When we look at grade 2, there would be a reduction at Bound, a reduction at Irwin, and a reduction at Warnsdorfer, affecting the class size averages as you see here. Still not out of the ballpark. Still reasonable. At grade 3, and in each of these cases, it's a 1 section reduction in that goldenrodded field. In grade 3, it would be a reduction at Chittick and a reduction at Lawrence Brook. And at grade 4, no changes. Any change to any of those projected classes, you can see what those averages are now. So if we make any kind of changes there, those numbers would just be off the wall. So that's specifically what rows 74 and 75 are related to. Consensus?
All right. Are there questions? All right, then I'm coming this way. Consensus? Question?
Yeah. Not that this will help for this year, but if we did district-wide redistricting, could that also help with this approach?
I'm not sure I understand.
If,
Help in what way?
Maybe I'm misunderstanding this, but what I'm seeing here is that we're taking schools with a particular grade where we can reduce the number, increase the class size, reducing a position. And and it seems to me we're doing this piecemeal across the various schools, looking for opportunities. If we did the same, if we took a district-wide approach to this, would that, and again, I know this isn't going to be for this year, and this is going to be a very long-term project, but would that would that be an argument for redistricting this sort of approach?
Well, I think we'd have to see what those numbers are, but
Right.
just to be clear, what I just put up, that's not a piecemeal approach. It's actually looking at.
Yeah, that's probably the wrong word,
That's
but
okay.
yeah.
But it's looking at, what are the class sizes overall, and where is there room
Yeah.
to tighten up a little
Yeah,
bit?
and that's
so
what I meant by
those selected
piecemeal looking for.
areas, those selected classes within each of the schools was to tighten that up.
Yep.
So it's not optimal, but it's not horrible.
Right.
So, and we didn't want to venture into the horrible
Yep.
in the K-4 level.
Yeah, so maybe a better way of putting this is that this is looking for opportunities where we can. Would looking at our district as a whole and redistricting across the board provide more opportunities like this?
It could. It could.
So this could be an argument for looking at this, again, not for this year, not even knowing the timeline of this sort of thing, maybe not even for next year, but.
We wouldn't have time, based
Yeah.
on where we are and the schedule that we have to deal with. I don't believe we would have time to implement a redistricting in an appropriate way for
Right.
September.
Yeah, I'm not even thinking about
But also,
September, but.
redistricting really wouldn't create equity across every grade.
It's
Like,
going-
it wouldn't
it's-
evenly
it's-
spread
it's-
across
it's going-
grades as
Right, it's
much.
not, it's going to depend on what the ultimate enrollments end up at.
Of course.
In each of the buildings, so, could it provide opportunities? It could, but that would remain to be seen once we actually see
Yeah.
the numbers.
I'm just looking for another tool to use for when we're in the same situation next year.
All right, do we have consensus here?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Okay, row 76, I mentioned earlier, the notification from the electrical service provider, 19.1% rate increase, so we have to budget additional funds in electricity. That 19.1% comes to $396,325.
If we say no, does that mean the electric company can't raise rates?
Wouldn't that be nice?
I wish.
We're refusing to acknowledge the
Yeah,
letter.
okay.
So just a quick question on that. So if we're going to be, based on our security and the usage of our buildings, can we shut down during, like after 6:15, 7 o'clock? Is there any way to kind of shut down some of the lights and the action that might be going on in a building that's not being used?
So the lights are already LED lights, so they're not really utilizing much energy.
Right.
Our energy drivers are going to be running the heating systems and running the air conditioning. We can't shut those down.
No.
Right? We bring, in the evening for heating, we bring the temperatures down a bit, but, the challenge then becomes, if we bring them down too far, having to reheat the building for the next morning becomes problematic, and it also challenges our systems. Air conditioning, we can't shut the air conditioning off during the warmer months, because what that does is it simply promotes the potential for mold, moisture, and that raises a whole bunch of other problems for us. So, we're pretty mindful in terms of how we run our HVAC systems. As it is, we keep them within certain temperature points, and, do regular filter changes and all those things that help to keep it more efficient.
Right.
But I don't know that we would be able to do anything that's really going to reduce the cost on this.
And then just a question also, please. I do understand that we have solar panels on buildings.
Yes.
And would the addition of additional solar panels make any difference in our budget, considering we also have the cost of implementing them?
There's a cost of implementing. The opportunities that we took at the time that we had them installed a few years ago, they were on the new roofs. Putting them on an old roof that is going to need to be replaced is problematic, because we'd have to pay to have them removed, then have them reinstalled. That becomes a real problem. So there is opportunity, I think, in a couple of years, And I say a couple of years because we have one elementary school that is planned to have a new roof done on it, should the funding get approved. And so that becomes an opportunity to potentially put solar panels on it. But that's easily, to start that process, it would probably be 2 years down the road, because I would see that roof won't be done this summer. It would end up being done the following summer. So there's time lost.
And there's no additional properties that the district holds that we could create solar farms and have panels? I saw a whole field outside of Piscataway's Magnet School. That's the only reason I asked. Thank you.
Sorry. I wish.
Yeah. Do we own our solar panels, or is this one of those lease agreements?
It's one of those agreements.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right. Consensus on accepting the fact that our utility bill is going higher.
No to the utility company, but yes, on consensus.
I would like to not, but
Yeah, so would
we're
I.
good. Okay.
Okay, and then row 77, this is the last row, but certainly not insignificant. This is based on the revised elementary schedules and decreases in class sections based on what we were just looking at. This is a reduction in special areas because the schedules don't warrant it or will not warrant them. So this is 2 in PE, 2 in art, 2 in music, and 1 in media. This is a total value on this of $669,221.
And that's spread across all the elementaries?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have questions about this?
Are the 2 music positions outside of the 4th grade?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right. Consensus on this one?
Yes.
Over here? All right,
We have to go back to page 10.
back to page 10.
Yep, page 10.
Okay, rows 64 and 65.
So I'm going to express the same concern that I had before, that it appears to me that the loss of teaching positions across the music programs is disproportionately high to the other loss of teaching positions I've seen from the other items that we've just discussed. It could just be my perception because they're all clumped together. But we're looking at, but I think that needs to be taken into account when we're looking at our music programs. I'm all for the concept of shared sacrifice. It's not clear to me that that's happening here.
To piggyback on what Wilbur said, I do agree. I really feel that this is an important program. Have we considered a rotation similar to how we would proposing foreign language of once a week exposures, which would reduce staffing but still allow for some positions to be retained?
I can't answer that
We
question.
could look at it, we could look at that.
Can we explore that, please?
Where you would require all the kids to go to band on Mondays, is that what you mean
Or
by
have
that?
2 teachers
Or,
travel.
You know, on Tuesday. all
Yeah,
the
maybe
kids
have
go
2
to-
teachers traveling instead of 4, and less exposures, instead of multiple times a week, once a week. I would be curious to see,
Now and
it is once a week.
At elementary, it's once a week, so it would be once every other week, is that what you're thinking? I mean, we can explore it.
Yeah,
Trying to
I
understand
would
what
just
you're
like to
asking.
know what opportunities exist to save the program as opposed to a hard stop on losing it. If we can even come up with solutions or ideas and then maybe have a little more insight before a final decision. I would be really grateful for that information.
So my thought is to send this back to the schools, see what sort of alternative solution they can come up with, And I would be willing to vote yes on a consensus for the items here with the understanding that if these items stay in place, that's going to be a no vote for me on the budget.
I'm listening to we are having a lot of conversation about music. I also want to point out, though, that in the richness of what we offer, we don't have large visual arts groups outside of the classes. You know, there is no visual arts orchestra.
Right.
We don't have those things we don't have that anywhere. Aside from sports, I don't think there is any other department that is so large outside the classroom. So I'm understanding the sensation that we're discussing music a lot, but aside from inside the classroom, it's music and sports are the things that are outside of the core areas.
Right.
Unfortunately. I mean, we have fantastic programs, and
I understand that.
that's not supported right now by the state.
Yep.
All right, so we're on 64 and 65?
Yep.
All right, consensus for the sake of the tentative on 64 and 65?
For the sake of the tentative, yes.
Yes, with the caveat that I mentioned before.
And the same for 66?
One second, we're still on 64 and
Oh, I'm sorry,
65.
I thought you were already past it.
I'm okay with 64, 65.
Tim? Anna?
I don't see any choice.
I think that's how we all feel.
Yeah.
I mean, very truthfully. All right, moving on to
66.
66.
Just as a reminder, I mean, on 66, I mean, there's, I think, room to not have this be part of it. So we don't have to have a consensus on this one. But just keep in mind that, you know, we're at the limit then, at that point.
How do we feel about that? I personally would like to use that as part of our wiggle room to keep. If we have that wiggle room, what little bit that it is, that's something that I think we should really consider using for it.
I agree. And I also would love to see if we can explore any cost-saving opportunities at all, anything.
Oh, that's everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm basically, I'm against consensus. I am not,
That's
I am
what
not
that would be.
agreeing to 66.
Okay, good. I'm not.
I'm sorry, I saw your face.
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
see.
agreeing to 66.
Okay,
Would
good.
anybody else like to not agree with me?
I'm not agreeing.
Yeah, I think that you've got that across.
Okay,
Yep, okay.
everybody's not agreeing with me.
All right, we're not finished. We are for this portion in the open session, but we do have more to do when we go into closed session. And I thank you for,
All right, if everyone could pass this down, because these are still
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
works in progress and confidential.
Just so you know, we got one extra. It's coming back.
Oh, okay, thank you. I thought you were saying you had one extra down there. I'm like, no.
No.
shouldn't be long.
Is that all of it?
Yeah, that's all.
Oh, if they could hold that back door open for just a second, it's hot. I'm never hot.
Folks, the meeting is still
All right,
in process here.
and we would really like to get into closed and, no, we would really not like to, but we would really like to get to more of this. All right, finally, we are on board member reports on committees and/or information items.
Two things, if I might. So over the weekend, I had the real pleasure, along with many of the other board members, to go to the Buddy Ball tournament, the resource fair at the mall, and the EA Strings concert. All three were excellent events. And I'll quote Jack Levitt, who said, if anyone wants to know what East Brunswick is about, just go to these events and you'll see that. The other, I just want to check the way I've been framing our budget, our funding situation. Would it be appropriate for me to mention that now? Because I think it would be good for the public.
Yeah, I don't think that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The thing that
Yeah.
okay, great. So, I've been thinking about the budget a lot, since the beginning of the year. And the issue I think that many people have, including me, is that the numbers we're throwing around here are very hard to conceptualize. So I've come up for myself, because I'm not a numbers person, to frame what our funding and budget situation are. And I figured out that these are the rules, and I've pressure tested it, my analogy, and it seems to hold up. But if our school district was a household here in East Brunswick with two parents, both working, and two kids, bringing in $100,000 a year combined, and their job is to remain financially solvent, here are the rules that they're given. They're only allowed to keep $2,000 in the bank for emergencies. That's it. If they go through a year and they're not allowed, and they don't touch that money, they're not allowed to add on to that $2,000 at all. Okay? They can ask their boss for a raise, but that raise at maximum is going to be 2%. And their boss is going to be extremely upset if they get that raise. That's the taxes. They have friends and relatives that can give them money, but they're also not allowed to save that money at all. And that money has to go out the door. So those are the rules. And then you make inflation at 4.95%, which is what it's been for the past 5 years. You put all that together, and the funding rules that the school district is bound to play by is a setup for failure. And I've been thinking a lot about this, because and I've been thinking about, well, why is it happening now? Well, these rules actually made sense in the mid-2010s when inflation was around 2% or less, right? You can get by under those situations. Things are much different now. And this is not just us. This is the entire school district situation across the state. So these cuts are awful. I'm going to go home and throw up. Yep. Right. Right. And the reason I've been trying to figure this out is because I need a story for myself as to how we got ourselves into this position. Now, there is a narrative in town that we're in this position because of misspending. I don't see it. The rules are the much more straightforward reason why we're in the situation that we're in. And I can imagine that after this meeting and the meetings over the next few weeks, that narrative is going to pop up again. And until someone shows me data otherwise, I'm going to assume that the narrative that this is because of misspending is a complete fabrication. What this means in terms of a solution is that we have to change the rules. We have to change the rules by which school districts across the state are funded. That's going to take a long time. That's going to take a lot of energy. But I'm good at playing the long game. And in the short run, what people can do that will help is, if you hear chatter about the misspending that the school district is doing, put a stop to it. Because we need breathing room to figure this stuff out. And that sort of chatter just takes the oxygen away. That's all. Thanks.
Anyone else? Ms. Herb?
I also want to piggyback off of Wilbur. This weekend was really a lot of community activities, and I'd also like to thank Karen and Janet for coming to the resource fair and representing East Brunswick Public Schools, as well as parents from the Special Education Parent Advisory Group, because it was really great to see them represented, along with vast other community events or organizations. And also, I know that, for quite a few weeks now, many of us have been watching, S3917, which although didn't change the funding formula, was going to add, some other caveats to making our funding more transparent and looking at maybe stopping the loss at 2%. But as many people know, that is still in committee. And actually, I was on a call with the Garden State Coalition of Schools, and one legislative rep was on there, and she said that it's not even up for their discussion yet. So that, a lot of us on the New Jersey School Board's Legislative Committee have a meeting in the upcoming weeks, and we have questions that we'll be asking as to why we've been advocating for close to a year for at least some transparency or changing in some formulas, or, as well as like special education aid. And asking like why now are we not seeing any progress? Like why has this kind of stalled in the past 2 months when we had a bill on the table that, again, it didn't take care of the funding formula per se, but it offered other caveats to make things more transparent and, some other things that we did want to see. So we'll stay updated on that, but I also urge people to reach out to your legislators, talk to people that about school funding and writing, always we always want to be our kids' advocate. We can be our school's advocates too. So I think it's really important, if you have a question, especially like Dr. Pan said, if it comes to money or mismanagement, or you just have a question about how this process is working or what you can do, please call. I do know that Dr. Valesky will, the wonderful ladies in his office, they will guide you, they will give you information. Like, we want to see people out there, like, with us and helping us. And I think it's going to take, it's going to take a community for us to be like, we don't want our school systems to be just, mediocre. We excelled for many years, and we want to continue doing that by offering great programs to our students and resources to our families, because I think that's one of the things that East Brunswick, a lot of people moved here for, and I don't want us to see those continue to get taken away, knowing that every year for the next few years will probably be one of those districts who sees a 2% to a 3% decrease, because we will be in the same situation every year, sitting here thinking, what are we going to cut now? And it's very unfortunate. That's it.
President Guas, I just have two quick things. First of all, thank you to the folks who stayed all night, who don't have to be here. Appreciate it. It's a tough meeting. Glad that everybody was here to see the process. I think it's important, and especially it's a fairly new process in terms of letting this come out into the public and the public getting a chance to talk about some things. And I think it really worked, and I appreciate the chance to have this tonight. Second of all, I just want to also mention, and I know, Wilbur, you talked about it briefly, it was a great weekend in East Brunswick, but I have to say, Fast Break, Mr. Neil Shaw, you're back there, thank you so much. That was a phenomenal day, the whole event, the kids, the families out there. It's exciting. I think you've done that for what, 16 years now, is it? Or, I mean, that's unbelievable. So if folks, if you don't have it on your schedule for next time, please put it on there. Thank you, Mr. Shaw and Fast Break, for just a great day, and it was really terrific. So thank you.
And Howie Alexander. No, it was a great weekend in East Brunswick. I will say that, like many parents of small children, I missed almost all of it due to a little bit of viral activity that seemed to run through the elementary schools. I watched a lot of those great events happening online from in my house with my child, who just couldn't seem to nail down 24 hours of fever-free, not for anything. I also want to thank the people that stayed. And I want to thank the people that watched this video all the way to the end, because it is hard. Moving this process into the public is difficult, because we know how, actually we don't know. It is ridiculously hard to imagine what it's like for you to listen to us talk about line items that you cannot see what the line item is. That, kudos to you for sitting, because that is hard. But this is what the process looks like. I recently had a conversation where someone said that there's a great deal of not just misinformation, but just a lack of information about what happens in closed session, that it seemed mysterious and secretive. And there's a large effort on the part of this board for greater transparency or to just answer those questions. So to that end, this is what the Finance Committee looked like in the closed when it was a smaller committee and was not in the whole. And it is a long, difficult process. The rest of it that has to take place in closed takes place because people have the right to privacy when their own individual jobs are being discussed where it would be identifiable. And people also asked what else we do in closed. And it's things that have to do with individual students or people that want to speak to the board individually. And those things are confidential and have to be respected. To the end also of people have inquired, what else are we doing regarding our relationships nearby? So I have spoken to Assemblyman Stanley twice in recent weeks, once this past week, and once I met with him with Dr. Valesky a few weeks prior, again, talking about the budget and current bills that are up and what it is that we can possibly do to try to help our town. Last week, I'm sorry, with a child with a small person who doesn't sleep at night, I have to tell you, it's becoming a little blurry, but last week, I believe it was, I met with Mayor Cohen for well over 2 hours to discuss the relationship between the board and the schools and the township. I think it was worth the time and the effort. And also to the end of transparency, there was a great deal of commentary about a committee meeting. I'm new to the presidency, but I made sure I got a lot of advice for this. And I had asked the board the first week in February in closed because I believe my understanding with checking with our attorney was that if I was forming an ad hoc committee, I had to inform the board, which I did during closed. But I formed an ad hoc committee. We had a few board members, not enough to require it. We were not a quorum. And 2 people from the administration and a few people from the community. Because the idea behind this ad hoc committee was to share accurate information and also answer some questions, and to talk about topics, academic programs, budget, not asking for budget ideas, but to answer questions about how the board operates. And we're trying to avoid misinformation or a lack of clarity that can create confusion, missed opportunities, unnecessary concerns. And so what we were basically looking to do, and I think we accomplished in a very small group setting, was talking about how the board could better communicate with the public, how we could be not just more transparent, but how we could get the information out to more people. And I think the wisest thing I heard was that someone said they hadn't realized that the board doesn't know what the board doesn't know. And conversations with stakeholders are important. We have had further discussion amongst ourselves in small groups and at this committee as well about the need for holding small town halls, small group discussions where the public can come out and engage in the same kind of questions. But we want to keep the communication going with the public. If you've been paying attention to the school district's Facebook, it's becoming more active. We want to get the news out there where people can see it easily. And we're just working as much as we can to bring more information, answer more questions, and for greater transparency. I didn't report out on the last board meeting because I had asked the people that were there if they could send me any feedback they had, and I was waiting for that. And I received a lot to reflect on. But I think that's about where we are. Does anyone else have anything else for the good of the cause? Yeah?
The Human Relations Council met last Monday, and I just want to express well wishes for a peaceful Ramadan to our neighbors who celebrate.
Oh, and I should also report on that. I was at the RPAB meeting, although virtually, because I was driving home from college lacrosse. And again, thanks to Howie Alexander and Buddy Ball. And there's a great deal that the township does to support our students specifically through athletics, and it is deeply appreciated. The hours that they put in are phenomenal. All right, at that point, can I have do I have to read the closed session resolution again? I'm so sorry. All right, we have a need for a second closed session. Whereas the Board of Education must discuss matters which are not appropriate for discussion in a public meeting, And whereas these subjects are within the exception to the Open Public Meetings Act and are permitted to be discussed in closed session pursuant to NJSA 10-4-12B, and whereas the Board of Education intends to discuss matters as follows, items listed on the agenda. Do we have a length for this closed? I don't have that.
Hopefully less than an hour.
Hopefully, okay. We don't usually write that, but whereas the length of the closed session is estimated to be hopefully less than 1 hour, after which the public meeting of the board shall reconvene and
Action will be taken.
action will be taken. That's what I thought. All right, can I have a motion, please? All right, Wilbur and Jamie? All right, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you so much. We are enclosed. All right, we are back. Welcome to Tuesday. All right. I don't even know where we're going. Which item number are we voting on?
We are voting on, it was in the business section of the agenda, item 2.
All right, can I have a motion for business item 2? All right, Wilbur, Jamie, any discussion? All in favor, it's not a roll call, right?
No.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries.
Okay. Alrighty, and now you're free to adjourn.
All right, can I have a motion to adjourn? All right, Jamie, then Wilbur. Any discussion? Happy Tuesday, everybody. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. All right, abstentions? All right, we are done. Thank you, everyone.